been helpful if I actually had plugged it in. Sweet mamacita. Alrighty. Well, welcome to the Mac and Black podcast. Mac's back. Black is here as always.
Thanks for holding it down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Colorado started off as a work trip and then made it a fun trip, so that was good. But anytime
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, anytime you're moving, if you are in a car or walking, my phone doesn't work.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I don't know if it's not like I'm in the mountains. I'm in Denver. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a city. So yeah.
Who
sorry
do you
about
have?
that. I got the merged Sprint T-Mobile family as they promised me more connections. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm good. I'm covered under the pink umbrella, and that didn't help out very much.
So you went. So because I'm T-Mobile.
Yeah.
And your Sprint slowly moving
exactly.
into T-Mobile.
Yeah.
All right. So
which is not going well apparently. So
that's on. That's on y'all.
I don't know how they expected it to go.
I don't know.
Two completely different companies running for 10 plus years in this area, or all over the United States, and then now they're like, yeah, let's just merge them. And it's like, and it's funny because my stores are like still Sprint stores, but then he's like, I've been going to the same guy for 10 years, and he's like, I don't know, we might be T-Mobile next week. Like, I don't know they don't even know what's going on.
At this point, they're really just taking all the Sprint signs down, and then they put up the like the flag saying T-Mobile Sprint. We're now T-Mobile. So like overnight,
T-Mobile's
you get the guys to come in. They're taking out all the black and yellow lights, and they're putting all the pink lights in there.
They're sending them out to different companies. Like, listen, we can't use these black and yellows anymore. Just
exactly.
We got the new pink brandage going.
Exactly. Well, we got a lot going on here today on this afternoon. We'll be here for like the next 2.5 hours. We got some NHL talk. The Rangers got the number 1 pick, and a lot of people are pissed off.
How?
But piss off that you're pissed off. We'll bring that up.
We're gonna talk conspiracy theories on that too, because did you see the video on that one? I love it. Doesn't make sense, but I'm gonna push it forward. That's conspiracy, baby. All right. We'll talk about that. The ping pong balls, which is we have to talk about ping pong balls, and let's go away from ping pong balls when it comes to lotteries.
They're saying this is the equivalent when the Knicks got rigged. I mean, when the Knicks supposedly rigged when the NBA rigged the draft for the Knicks to get Patrick Ewing.
Yes. No. And I'm hoping that the Bulls get the same thing on the 20th.
I hope they don't. I hope the NBA's like, man, we got to get New York back on the map, baby.
They might
give us the number 1 pick. Yeah. Bring us LaMelo Ball. I will not be satisfied with anyone outside of LaMelo Ball playing point guard for the Knicks. Yeah. Every time I see Dame drop 61 or I see Ja Morant dropping triple doubles, the only guy I want is LaMelo Ball. That is it. I don't want anybody else. So Adam Silver and the fellas, if y'all got a little bit more magic. No, screw y'all. Y'all already gypped and got the first round pick when you guys didn't even deserve to get Derrick Rose, and you managed to pull it off. Yeah. No, it's our turn to get back. We should have got the number 1 pick this year, and we didn't. The year we got Kristaps, we should have got the number 1 pick, and we didn't. No.
Who was number 1 that year?
Karl Anthony Towns.
Karl Anthony Towns. Okay, I mean, that would have been nice, but yeah, no. I'll take either one of our teams. We'll give you the 2nd pick. You'll be fine. We'll take Alonzo. You guys, or we'll take LaMelo.
No, that's exactly why I don't want you to get the 1st overall pick. I don't want you to get LaMelo Ball.
We just lost Jim Boylan. Cut us a break over here.
No, hell no. That sounds like a personal problem. We'll bring that up too. The Bulls coaching search is on the way as they somehow came to a decision to finally fire Jim Boylan months after you knew it was going to happen.
Unjustified.
Exactly.
He deserves to stay.
Well, said no Bulls fan ever. We're going to talk baseball.
Yeah.
As it seems like all of our teams are doing pretty good. Yankees are doing good. The Sox call it fire. The Cubs doing all right.
Yeah.
Dude, they're 13-3?
That's pretty impressive.
Oh, and my bad for last week. I did not realize until the show was over with that I was calling the Cubs manager by the wrong name. I kept calling him Brian Ross because I have a friend whose name is Brian Ross, when clearly the manager's name is David Ross.
Yeah, same difference.
And I was like, my dumb ass this whole time was calling the Cubs manager by the wrong name. So I apologize on that one. So
he's
we'll
forgettable.
Get into that.
Fine.
We'll get into all that. But the biggest news that happened so far today, and I bet you a lot of people. Oh, and we got UFC 252 when Francis Ngannou figures out who he's going to murder for the UFC Heavyweight Championship, probably in the next 5 pay-per-views.
He's going to go box someone. I'm telling you, if this doesn't work out, he's just going to go box somebody. He should just
I'm all
do that.
for it, dude.
He should just move to boxing. I'm fine with it, too.
Dude, I am all on the Ngannou bandwagon, and I will not. Dude, I rode the same way when Quinn Rampage Jackson came in, and he beat Chuck Liddell. Dude, Rampage could lose to nobody.
And he was looking jacked.
He was so jacked.
Juice, So.
And it's like even though I knew that he was outmatched against Bones Jones, you think I was gonna say that? Hell no.
No.
And I'm the same way right now with Ngannou. So he's just sitting there waiting in the wings. And if I was Derek Lewis, I'd be like, hey, look. I don't know if I really want to do with all that, because you saw what happened when Rosenstruik happened, when he tried to make a name for himself, and about 35 seconds later, that brother didn't even know where he was at.
And they already tried to give him to DC, and that fight was so ugly. It's just like Derek Lewis couldn't even muster up a takedown defense. So I don't. It's funny because Derek Lewis is honest. He'll just tell you, I'm not ready for that title.
He sure did. He sure did. Not when he knocked the Russian out, but I think it was the second one.
Yeah, because he's like, let me sit my black ass at home. I'm gonna have to get some cardio going or something like that.
He did say that word for word. Because big head dumbass, and I don't know why people still love him, Joe Rogan came out. hey Derek, I think you're in line maybe for a heavyweight championship.
What?
He was like, what are you talking about, man?
What are you talking about?
He's like, man, F out of here with that bull, man. He's like, I'm not ready for that. He's like, I need to go get some cardio, man. I'm out of breath right now. I'm like, Joe Rogan, sit your stupid ass down somewhere.
It's funny when the fighter tells you, bro, I'm not championship ready.
Exactly. Man, dude. You're telling me that Dana White has it so in for Joe Rogan that he's still cutting this idiot a check?
They love him, and he gets to choose what events he goes to.
Oh,
so
my
he
God.
didn't do any of the bubble fights or the Fight Island fights because he's like, that's just too far. And then he's gonna do the ones tonight. I think that because that's gonna be in Vegas, but and he's moving out of LA too, by the way. So he's the word is that he's probably gonna be doing less and less UFC events, which.
Thank God.
You might see
You're
more.
Doing us a favor.
Might see more DC in the future because he's saying after this fight tonight he's done. Which
I would retire too if I beat Stipe, knowing that I had to fight
the
Predator in Francis Ngannou. I'd be like, nah, man, I'm trying to keep my jaw intact.
Or people keep saying go get John Jones again. It's like he's gonna get his ass whooped again by John Jones. So. And Dana doesn't believe him. Dana doesn't believe that he's going to be done after tonight. DC keeps saying, I'm going to be done, and Dana keeps saying, I don't think he's going to be done. So it's weird when you're telling your boss, like, I'm retiring, and he's just telling you, no, you're not going to retire.
Exactly. David Gutierrez says, who y'all got for the main event, Cheto or Sugar?
Yeah, I got Sugar Sean, even though I'm not a fan of the way that he's going about the pre-fight stuff. He's fighting Marlon Chito Vera, and I think Marlon's from Colombia, and then Sean O'Malley got the Colombian flag colored into his hair. Like I don't know if that's disrespectful or if that's an honor, but yeah, Sugar Sean O'Malley is the truth. But Marlon Vera is a veteran. But if I were a betting man, I would say take Sugar Sean. But I think Marlon is the heavy underdog for this one.
Right. He said he's hilarious, Sugar Sean.
He is. He's funny. He's funny on social media. Just, the thing is, man, UFC and fighting in general is going away from this, like, fuck my opponent, da-da-da-da-da. It's proven now that you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
It's just like respect your opponent. If you want to talk about them and their skill, talk about them, right?
Right.
But this whole, like, I'm going to play mind games, I'm going to get in his face at the face-off, this shit is kind of getting old to me. And
that's that Conor McGregor nonsense.
Exactly. And the funny part is when Conor did it, everyone said, well, that's what you need to do to sell fights. You guys don't understand. And then, like, the last, 4 or 5 pay-per-views, you haven't seen that. Masvidal and Usman they were like talking shit about each other, but they weren't like doing all this cosmetic bullshit. They weren't like doing weird face-offs or anything like that. It was just like, okay, you knew they didn't like each other, and then after the fight, they were cool with each other. So you don't need this anymore. But Sugar Sean is he's trying to McGregor himself, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to take himself to a level where tonight he does something spectacular, which he's betting on himself essentially. He's thinking tonight, I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to take over, because let's be honest, that Stipe DC one, it might be one that ends quickly.
Right.
We've seen it end quickly with them before, and even the one where DC was knocked out late, he could have been knocked out a round or two before that as well.
Right.
So we might come out of this event tonight thinking Sugar Sean O'Malley over Stipe or DC.
Right. Exactly. So there you go.
There's not many more fights on the card either. There's not many more fights on the card other than that.
And like I said, I really don't care who wins Stipe versus DC, because if Stipe wins, then he knows he's gonna get knocked out by Ngannou. If DC wins, he's just gonna vacate the title and let Ngannou knock somebody out. Lord knows who it's gonna be. So who knows what's gonna happen? But
and Rosenstruik's fighting tonight too. I forgot to mention Rosenstruik and RDS or JDS. Sorry.
David wants to know decision, knockout, or distance.
I got Sugar Sean in a knockout.
Round.
Yeah.
Bet. There you go. The biggest news that came out today, that happened this morning, is Boston Bruins goalie Tuukka Rask, 1 hour before their dude's pregame skate, decided that he was going to stay home because he was missing his family. I got a really good friend. His name is Shukri Wrights, who's a diehard Boston Bruins fan, and he did like a little pregame for his podcast, and he was highly upset that what's his name had left. So now it means that Yaroslav Halak is now going to be in goal for the Boston Bruins. And yeah, this could not have come at a worse time for the Boston Bruins. But like I was telling you before we came on, the Bruins have gone down this road once before, in where they dealt with this same nonsense with Tim Thomas.
Yeah.
When after they had won the Stanley Cup many years ago, Tim Thomas was like, I don't know if I want to play. Maybe I want to play. That kind of opened the door for Tuukka Rask to, as a matter of fact, to take the reins, because it was like, I don't know if I want to play, but I guess I do kind of want to play, but I don't want to play. And so, like, Boston was on this roller coaster. So then he retired. And then mid-season, he wanted to come back. And the Bruins were like, well, screw this. We got a young Rask in that. So they traded him to the Florida Panthers. And it's just a whole lot of nonsense. But it's just weird, because I just read to you earlier that everyone thought that it was an emergency and something was going on at home and this and that.
Yeah. And
Tuukka Rask was just like, nah, man, I miss my family and I just want to leave.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's hard to fault the guy for that, right? It's
exactly.
Like, when you say it like that, it's like anybody who's talking about him, maybe the timing isn't the best.
Right.
But I mean, again, dude, like, this is what people don't understand about athletes. Like, when Tre'Davious White from the Bills, he was saying he was thinking about even sitting out. Wasn't even talking about sitting out, just saying he was thinking about it, and was getting people saying how much he's a pussy and this and that, and grown men basically calling him names because he's got a family. He's got a pregnant, girlfriend, and we don't look at athletes in that way. We're so selfish as fans that we say, we deserve this. We deserve Tuukka Rask to be our goalie. And it's like Tuukka's saying, listen, dude, I'm a human. I get to do what I want.
Exactly.
And I was, when I first heard it, I was thinking, how are you going to opt out when we're literally halfway through the stage? So it makes sense. It sucks for Boston. Get ready for this. If you are following a sports team, get ready to have your heart broken by one of your favorite players who is saying, fuck your entertainment. I got a family, and just gonna sit out. We're gonna see it in football a lot. I'm guaranteeing you right now. I'm getting ready for some fantasy football, which I'm hoping and praying we're gonna be able to actually watch and enjoy. But that's one thing that you should adjust your league to this year, because there's going to be a lot of people who get COVID. There's going to be a lot of people who opt out due to COVID, and it's going to be really random, and it's going to be the craziest seasons that we'll ever see when it comes to, pro sports. And we're seeing it right now with baseball. I mean, baseball's doing an okay job, but they can hardly keep it together. You have, the Cardinals Sox series was supposed to start yesterday. They decided to make it a doubleheader today. Now there's another team, I want to say it's the Reds, who had positive COVID tests as well, and now they're probably going to be postponing their games. So it's not making the quality any better, and it's clearly all rushed together so that we just have our sports, and it's not going well right now.
I guess it's just the West teams that are like, dude, what are you guys doing over there in the Central and the East, dude?
Yeah, that's true.
Because think about it, we had the Marlins that went out
Phillies,
and were being idiots, and then it affected the Phillies, which then at some point affected the Yankees.
Yeah.
And now you got the Cardinals that went out and been idiots, and now it affected Cleveland. And
Cleveland designated both of those guys for assignment.
Yep.
I mean, if you're a player, Mike Clevenger's a good pitcher.
He is.
Zach Plesac is a good pitcher. They could have used them for this season. And you know what they said? We're going to designate these guys for assignment. That's like essentially like getting fired from your job for doing that. So they're trying to set a message clearly. And teams now, you're starting to see it even during the play. You could tell that they're like, we got to keep our distance. Even if you hit a home run, I'm going to give you the elbows, whereas a couple weeks ago I might have given you the high five. So they got to be more careful, dude. Simple as that.
And that's why I wasn't so upset when you saw
Tuca?
Not Tuca. The idiot in baseball, Rob Manfred. When he was like, when he was like, dude, it's a bunch of grown men. Like, why do I need to postpone the season because a bunch of grown men? The St. Louis Cardinals go to a casino. You know, good goddamn well, you're not supposed to go to a casino.
Yeah.
Not at this stage.
Yeah.
You know what's on the line, so why are you doing it? The Florida Marlins went to a strip club in Atlanta. Why?
Not even for the wings either.
Exactly. Why? So now what? I got to end the whole season because a bunch of grown men don't understand what's going on, and maybe this is not a good time to do it?
Yeah.
Do it on your free time, not on this time. You on my time now.
The season's only 60 games, bro. Like, you just season 60 games. Just ride out the 60 games. Ride out the postseason, and then do whatever you want. Like Zach Plesac tried to make a video talking about, I only went out. The CDC says that you should have only 10 people, and we had 8 people, and we were socially distancing. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is, stay your ass at the hotel. There's no fun that you're going to be able to have that's going to be worth it at the end of the day. And now he might be out of a job. I don't think he's going to be out of a job, but they designated him for assignment. That is clearly a way to say, hey, dude, you messed up, and we don't care how good you are. So teams are going to see that. And I'm telling you right now, I mean, you're looking at teams in the West, in the western region of the country that are traveling. And to get to Rob Manfred, because he likes to talk a lot of mess about how these dudes are grown men. Let me say something. The bubbles have gone tremendous. The NBA bubble and the NHL bubbles have gone really well.
Yeah.
I understand that you can't do a bubble per se in the MLB, but they needed that type of guidance. They needed that type of rule structure. And what happens is when you give people the option to do this, they're always going to do the stupidest thing that they can do. And that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, it's easy for us to say, don't go to the strip club. But if you are holed up in a hotel and you don't get to see your family and da-da-da-da-da, and we get all these sad, sorry excuses, I can understand it. But it's like, dude, stay at the hotel and figure this out later. But you're putting the whole league at risk right now. I'm really scared, Nick, that we're going to see 2 or 3 teams have like 10 tests each. And they're going to say, how can we possibly continue this season when we have this? And we're close to that.
You know, and in fairness, you know, think about it. A lot of the stadiums nowadays, like let me ask you this question. Let's just off the top of the heads go with some places that have retractable roofs.
Okay.
You got Miami has a retractable roof. Mm-hmm. Houston has a retractable roof.
Toronto does, but they can't use Toronto.
So you have Milwaukee has a retractable
Tampa
roof.
Bay isn't retractable, but it's
but
closed.
It's domed.
Domed.
Trying to think what's another good one.
Minnesota's no longer domed.
Right, they're not domed anymore.
Yeah, that's probably
Arizona has.
Oh yeah, that's right.
retractable
Arizona
roof.
has one. Yeah. So you got a good 6 or 7 cities
Bingo.
that can do that. Yeah.
You're telling me you couldn't bubble in them retractable roofs? Do you really have? If you're playing not in front of fans, do you really need to play at your home stadium that bad?
There's no home field advantage.
None.
Just being in the locker rooms,
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're a team like the Yankees, where you have the short porch and right, the home run distance in places is, but it's all about the adjustments.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So you're gonna tell me that you have 30 MLB teams, you have maybe 7 to 10 retractable roofs and or domes that people can play in.
Yeah.
You could bubble all them teams there.
Or you could
in certain sites, in certain places.
The problem is they were unwilling to make it happen because what the NBA did was they were going to make games from noon until 9 p.m., right?
Right.
And baseball was unwilling to do that. They didn't see a possibility of being able to use, for example, there's not always a guarantee that if you have a game at 12 p.m. that the field will be ready for a 4 p.m. game.
Right.
So I see it, but what I'm saying is like I get it. Listen, we're not going to be armchair experts here and say you should have done better. It's clear they should have done better, but what I'm saying is like it was obvious to even us that hey, the bubble thing looks like it's going to work, and it has worked. And the NBA has done a tremendous job, and the NBA is getting props from the CDC and from the government of this United States because they are on the cutting edge right now of what the world is going to look like for at least the near future. It's scary. It's scary to think about that this is going to be our new world, but this is our new world right now for at least the present time.
Right.
So we have to adjust to it, and the NBA and the NHL said we're not going to mess around. The NFL, I mean, they're still talking about fans. Like the Green Bay Packers are like, well, we want to have fans. It's like, dude, cut the loss. There's going to be no fans this year. And let's just play like there's going to be no fans this year. It's okay to have 1 year where it's not everything is the way it's supposed to be. But for the Packers to go out and fight for 15% capacity fans, what difference does that make? You're not making that money back. It's not like they're going to make a noise difference. This is all just to appease these crazy people out there. And
who spent thousands of dollars on getting PDLs and season tickets and all this other stuff.
And
too.
I understand their frustration, but it's like, listen, we're all living in this world now, right? So we're all having to adjust. And you and I were both proponents of, listen, if this is what it takes, cancel the season.
Yep.
I was okay with it. You were okay with it. I know a lot of fans who were saying, listen, if what it's going to take is to take a break and come back next year fully 100%, I'm all for that. And the NFL just seems unwilling to do that. There's too much money to be left on the table, especially because the NFL makes so much from the TV deals that they are not going to be able to go away. And their ratings are going to be through the roof this year because people are going to be watching.
Exactly. I'm looking at NHL scores right now. Speaking of which, because my boy Stephen Wallman is on here, if I could send a bouquet of flowers to the Montreal Canadiens and to the Chicago Blackhawks, thank you for beating Edmonton and Pittsburgh so that the New York Rangers got the number 1 pick, and Alexis Lafreniere is going to be coming to New York, who they say is the second coming of Sidney Crosby. I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart for taking care of business, and this might be one of the few times you will ever hear me say thank you to a Chicago team, but I appreciate you to the Chicago Blackhawks for doing God's work. And now the rebuilding process of the New York Rangers is now, not only is it in full bloom, but our future is so bright that I see us going on one of those New York Islanders 1980s 4-cup runs, because now that all of our old guys are kind of going out of the way. And now that the young core of the Rangers right now is about to be so effing solid that I right now need the Boston Bruins to be up on the Hurricanes and just sweep them clean out of the water so then that they have like somewhere between 15 and not even 15, maybe 15 and 20 because the Rangers have that pick. So we'll pick one and we'll pick in the middle just because we traded Brady Shea. The hockey season, even though they may not lift the cups, could not have played out better than for the New York Rangers. You steal Panarin from the Islanders. Igor Shesterkin is the real deal. If they can find one solid defenseman and one solid centerman, dude, just go straight to the playoffs. The Rangers will meet you at the Stanley Cup final, and we'll Peter slap anyone that decides that they're going to come and take the cup from us because it will be ours within the next 2 years. The Rangers are hoisting the Stanley Cup. I'm calling it now.
This is what happens when teams get the number one pick and they didn't need it. The Rangers were fine without the number one pick. Okay?
No, we weren't.
And I'm going to talk.
No, we weren't.
And I was going to talk conspiracy too because I saw a highly probably doctored video on the internet of. Did you see this video of this guy dropping the ping pong ball and then picking it back up and it had the Rangers on it? Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
I'm going to send it to you, but
okay.
It's a very juicy and spicy conspiracy video of the.
But why us?
I don't
why
know.
Us?
You guys just got Kako last year, but my thing was if you were going to rig it, there were plenty of teams that were better. Let's say one of the Canadian teams. I mean, it would have been nice for, let's say, there was a plenty of options to rig it for. So I won't. But I just like conspiracies, me, and also my Blackhawks are getting their asses kicked by Vegas. Vegas is good, man. Vegas
really
is
good.
Very good, and Robin Lehner, who we had half this season and traded to Vegas, is a very good goalie. And the Blackhawks, they did numbers on Edmonton because Edmonton wasn't very good. And it's funny because we talked about how Connor McDavid was not all this, and then next thing you know, he scored a hat trick the next game. But then he went away. And Edmonton went away, and the Blackhawks just kind of used veteran savvy to win that series and move on here. But Vegas seems to be too much. I think Game 3 is tonight.
It is,
but it's right now the Blackhawks have a lot of holes, and they're running this season right now with Kirby Dach, who's 19 years old.
That was the third overall pick.
And a very good player, but he wouldn't be playing right now if it wasn't for this current format.
Right.
He would be getting some seasoning, and he's not able to. Not a guy who's like he's a guy who's gonna really dazzle you with the puck in his possession. Very tall and looks good, but doesn't track back on. He's not a very good forechecker. Not a guy who's gonna really earn his keep as a high work rate defensive guy, and that's what the Blackhawks need. And he doesn't win faceoffs. That is has always been a problem for the Blackhawks, even dating back to their Stanley Cup runs where they couldn't find a center who could win a faceoff.
Right. And
it's so important in the NHL. Possession, we're seeing now, especially in this version of the NHL, is so important. Just having the puck in your possession and giving your blue line guys a chance to just throw it at the net is so important now, and the Blackhawks don't have it. They've been scoring okay, but we just don't have the defensive effort right now, and I would be flabbergasted if we came out and won tonight, even though there's a lot to play for if you're the Blackhawks, because let's be honest, you've got maybe 5 or 6 veterans on this team that, you've got Seabrook, you've got Keith, you've got Kane, you've got Taves, you've got guys that you have to make decisions on. Corey Crawford. So if you're a Blackhawks fan, watch this game tonight and really understand that might be the last time you see this core of group guys together, because we might have to move on after this year. It's the only way.
It's the only way. It's okay. And look, man, it's okay. You had a good run.
Maybe keep
it's now our run,
but dude, it's hard to imagine that the NHL was saying let's do the Rangers any favors, because the Rangers didn't need any favors to be done for them. So, but I still love conspiracies. I'll send you the video anyways. You let me know what you think.
I'm just
saying. It looked
weighted.
It looked like the ball was weighted.
It's so funny because everyone's like, the Rangers were in the playoff, baby. So why would they even have the opportunity to win the first pick when the Detroit sucky-ass Red Wings only had 37 and they barely even got a top 5 pick?
You would think they would want to help the Red Wings too, right? They would if the
Who cares about Detroit? It's just another L in their sorry-ass sports history.
Oh, boy.
I mean, the only team that's worth – look, think about it. The only team that's even worth – all right, the Pistons were worth talking about in the 80s, and then they had a nice little run in 05 and 06.
Yeah.
I take that back. 04 and 05.
They beat that Lakers team, which
right.
was pretty impressive.
Then you had the Red Wings that had their little run for the longest.
Yeah.
But the Red Wings should cook themselves in their ass the day that they let what's his name go? Who's the manager that went over to Detroit?
Babcock?
Bingo.
Yeah, Mike Babcock.
Once they let him go, they were the drizzling doo-doo.
And it's because they have former players in the front office that think they know more than the coaches do, and that's like one where you got like Callahan and stuff like that. They've got guys in the front office that think they know more than the players and the coaches do, and that's never good.
Right. And Steven just told me that pick that the Rangers would get from Carolina might be just the 20th. If I was the Rangers, I'd try and trade it for either a center or defensive man, because I was looking at some of the prospects, and there was a center on there who's like the third best prospect. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but they said he's like a power skater. This dude's supposed to be like really solid and whatnot. And if there's one thing that I think the Rangers really do need, is they really need a center. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, we're loaded on the wings. That doesn't mean that we don't still need Alexis Lafreniere. And it doesn't also mean that we couldn't, if we wanted to, make him into a center.
He's a wing right now?
He's a wing right now. But he's still young. And maybe he could learn the position.
Yeah, it's all about face-offs for centers, too. Man. So if you can learn to face-off, you'll be fine.
We about to be so raw. Look at the Rangers core. Keandre Miller defensively. We got Adam Fox that we traded from defensively. Plus, we got Igor Shesterkin, Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider we just re-signed. After next year, Henrik Lundqvist's contract is up, so that's $8.5 million off the cap. So we'll have a little bit of flexibility going into 2022. Man, come on, man.
You guys should take Duncan.
Oh, hell no. All hail
trying to plant the seed right now.
Jeff Gordon and JD, the saviors of the rebirth of the New York Rangers to be the greatest hockey team that has ever graced God's green earth. Because can I go out on a limb here? Am I the only one that thinks that the Tampa Bay Lightning are the most overrated hockey team in over like the last, 10 or 12 years? What has the Tampa Bay Lightning done since they won their last Stanley Cup?
Really good regular seasons. And
that's it. And got lucky to beat us in a Stanley Cup when we should have. The Rangers and Blackhawks should have been in back-to-back Stanley Cups this year.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind that we should have went back-to-back and we should have beaten y'all on both, and I would have absolutely torn this city down myself. Forget all the looters, what they're doing. I would have done 8 times worse to let you guys know who the kings of hockey of the original 6 are. And we got screwed out of both. Because the Tampa Bay Lightning had no business in the second Stanley Cup, and the LA Kings had no business in the first one. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, we won the President's Cup, and we went out and we traded for Ryan Callahan, and we traded for Ryan McDonough, and because they love giving us their first round picks, and we got Nikita Kucherov, and we got one of the best goalies in the game, and we got Steven Stamkos. And you got swept out of the first round last year. You haven't sniffed the Stanley Cup since you lost to the Blackhawks many years ago. So what am I impressed of? That you went in a 5 overtime game against the Blue Jackets that clearly you're a better team on?
Yeah, I was going to say,
and that you can be down 2-1 by the time tonight's over with? Dude, the Lightning are overrated as hell.
They top out their performance during the regular season, and then they just can't keep it up in the postseason.
No.
It's like even that 5 OT game, I watched most of that, and honestly, neither team looked that great.
No.
I mean that goal in the fifth overtime looked like a goal that was like every single person on the ice is tired as hell right now, and just throw it at the net. And I mean, and that goalie for Columbus,
Yeah.
What do you have, like 85 saves or something like that?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Get that man a pay raise or something, or a Gatorade or something like that. But yeah, no, I'm not that impressed with Tampa Bay. And to be quite honest, I don't really see a team right now that's like head and shoulders above everybody else. From what I've seen, because of the weirdness of the season, everybody has sort of been affected. So who knows? Maybe I'm selling the Blackhawks short. Maybe they'll come back tonight. Probably not, though.
Let's jump to the NBA real quick. As we mentioned earlier, the New Orleans Pelicans fired Alvin Gentry after 5 seasons.
Yeah.
We talked earlier before we came on the air that there are a lot of Bulls fans out there chomping at the bit that they should go out there and get Alvin Gentry.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to take a page out of one of my brothers, Roy Herman's, who I've done many a podcast with. I'm going to take a page out of Roy Herman's book when he would tell me, why do it feel like the Chicago Bulls have this bad habit of wanting to bring back a coach that has been regurgitated by 4 or 5 other teams, and everyone's like, we got to go out there and get that guy. That's the guy we need. Why not go out? You have a team full of young guys. I'll give you a prime example. Look at what happened with Brad Stevens in Boston. Here's a guy, back-to-back national championship appearances with Butler, young coach, great mind, goes to Boston with a bunch of young kids out there, and Boston's one of the better teams in the NBA. The Chicago Bulls are in the same boat. Why do you feel like it's necessary to go out and get Alvin Gentry, who didn't work in Phoenix, hasn't worked in New Orleans, and there was somewhere else he was before then that it didn't work out in, and now you're saying that this is the guy you really want? It's the same thing they used to do with Byron Scott. Byron Scott, and still living off all that success that he had when he was in New Jersey with a veteran team. Dude, there are some coaches that can get the best out of young kids, and there are some coaches that just prefer to be with veterans. That's why it didn't work in Cleveland, because Byron Scott can't develop young kids. That's why it didn't work when he went, I can't think where else he went, because he can't develop young kids.
Tried New Orleans for a while when they were in New Orleans.
Is Alvin Gentry really the answer to the Chicago Bulls? No, I'm not saying you have to go find the next best thing, because I know Cleveland's, kicking their own ass for grabbing Rick Beeline, and he didn't even make the entire season, even before the COVID hit.
Yeah. What's that dude's name from Villanova? Jay Wright?
Yeah.
Jay Wright. I would take Jay Wright at this point, but other than that, I mean, it's like unless Calipari does something crazy, that would be the only college coach I'd take. Maybe Shaka Smart if he decides, but you know why, though, Nick? Because the Bulls don't know who's going to be on this team next year. There's no guarantee that Levine's on this team next year. There's no guarantee that Markkanen's on this team next year. The new regime, which, I still don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, the guy who came from Denver. Everything I've read on him is that he's a great GM, great talent evaluator, but he's not sold on the team right now. And I think the players were a little bit pissed about how long it took to let go of Boylen. I think the players were hoping that, because remember, they are still trying to fix this second bubble. I think they're going to try Chicago or another Midwestern state or city, but they're still going to do this bubble. And I think the thought process of the players was like, fuck, if we have to do Boylen during this bubble, we're going to die. And again, it wasn't always X's and O's with Boylen that was a problem. It was a lot because he wasn't the best, terrible at taking timeouts, terrible situation.
Awful at taking time.
Yeah, terrible situational play calling, terrible lineup management, absolutely horrendous player management in the locker room. I mean, players were laughing at this guy, at some of the things he was saying and doing during practice. It's like, when you have that sort of old dude who's been around so long and people just listen to him, but they know he's talking nonsense, but they don't tell him, so he just continues to talk this nonsense. That's what Jim Boylan was. And players were so frustrated that even the new GM and the new basketball operations guys were like, yeah, we got to fire this guy, but also we didn't want to. They didn't want to fire Boylan. They were kind of, their arms were twisted into firing Boylan because they wouldn't have been able to live it down. But listen, at this point, can Alvin Gentry do much worse than Jim Boylan did? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure that whole New Orleans thing was his fault. I mean, if you look at what he did with the players he had this year, I was surprised he didn't keep him. Mm-hmm. The way that Brandon Ingram has come out, the way that Lonzo Ball has come out, Josh Hart has taken the next step up, and then obviously you have Zion, who needed this season to kind of get under his wing, and next season he's going to come back stronger. Jackson Hayes, another very good player. So they've got a lot, and Drew Holiday. So honestly, I guess it had to do with the bubble and not being able to make it in for Alvin Gentry, but he wouldn't. They could do a lot worse. Trust me. I know right now the thought process is like Adrian Griffin, who's a very well-respected coach, assistant coach. I think he's with Toronto right now. A former Bulls player and a former Bulls assistant under Tom Thibodeau. They like him, but the problem is it's like, you can't keep going from player coach to hard-ass coach to X's and O's coach to player coach. So it's just like the culture has to be different here, and the Bulls, I don't think, quite understand what they're going to do right now because they don't know who's going to be here. Zach LaVine is probably going to be traded. Lauri Markkanen, do you really want to extend him? If you're a Bulls fan, if you've been watching Lauri Markkanen, is he worth an extension at this point? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
He hasn't grown his game. He can't stay healthy. And on top of that, it's like when you drafted him, you thought he was going to be a playmaking type 4 guy for you. And in reality, he is a guy who can shoot a spot at 3 every now and then, can't dribble the ball to save his life, can't drive the ball to save his life, not physical or strong enough to get a rebound sometimes, and not great defensively. So what exactly are you paying for with Lauri Markkanen? And same thing with Zach LaVine. He's going to get max money more than likely. You're going to pay this guy max money to be this guy on a scrub team for the next 2 years? The Bulls have a lot of work to do. This whole Boylan thing is not the end of it. It's just the beginning.
So Vlade Divac is out as GM in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And I just read a headline on talking about what is the next decision for the when it comes to Bojan Bogdanovic and De'Aaron Fox. Sacramento.
Oh no, they're not. That's not happening. Come on, bro. Hold on.
Let me spit my scheme
okay,
first.
Spit it.
Let me spit my scheme first.
Yeah.
If we don't get the number 1 or at least number 2 overall pick, as long as the number 1 overall team, not called the Bulls, don't need a point guard. Yeah. Maybe they need the what's the kid that's out of Memphis, the big center,
Wiseman.
James Wiseman. They want Wiseman.
Yeah, which is possible.
But they want Wiseman. This is all I'm saying. If we have the 3rd overall pick and we're gonna miss out on LaMelo, you give us De'Aaron Fox. We'll give you the 3rd overall pick. Everybody's happy.
You're going to have to take back some garbage contracts from Sacramento. As the new GM of Sacramento, I have looked at the team, and I think you're going to have to take back Garrett Temple. He's not even on the team anymore. They've got a couple.
Let's pull up
NBA. Yeah, pull up the roster because I want to work this out. Because if we're gonna work this out, it can't be straight up, right? So you're gonna have to take some shitty contracts from me. I'm gonna have to maybe take like Ntilikina from you or something like that.
You can take Frank Nitti any day of the week if you want him.
Okay,
you can take Frank Nitti.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to work that out because De'Aaron at this point. I mean, let's be honest. That would be a nice haul for Sacramento, but is that enough? Even number 3. So
Okay, so we got you're not going to trade Marvin Bagley.
No,
you just drafted him. You got Harrison Barnes, Kent Bazemore.
Oh, Barnes. Okay, Barnes has got a kind of a heavy contract, and I think he's got 1 year left. So maybe. Okay.
You're right. He's got $24 million left. On that. How did he con the Sacramento Kings into $25 million?
It was Dallas. they signed him and then they traded him because he was so bad they traded him for like nothing this year. So yeah, Harrison Barnes you'd have to take. I'm sorry, 24. Yeah. You got to take him, but you guys do have a lot of cap room. So if you're getting De'Aaron on his rookie deal, and then you would flip that so that when Barnes is gone, you could sign De'Aaron. So that kind of works out.
Okay, that could work out.
So we got Harrison Barnes.
You got Ken Bazemore.
He's not going anywhere.
You got Nemaja Bjelica.
Yeah, Bjelica. Okay. You know what? Honestly, I might even say Bazemore too, because Bazemore should have another year in like
he's worth $20 million.
$20 million himself. So if you're the Kings, right? And Vlade Divac put you in such a shitty salary cap position that you can get rid of now $44 million. Yeah, you'd have to give up De'Aaron Fox, but he's going to be rotting there anyways. And you get back a number 3 pick, and then let's say Frankie and you couldn't do Mitchell Robinson. That wouldn't work out. No, that wouldn't work out.
And I've seen some tapes of Mitchell Robinson.
He's looking svelte.
Bruh,
he just needs some muscle mass on him.
Okay, that was A. But remember when Mitchell Robinson came into the NBA, he hadn't really played organized basketball until he was like a sophomore, junior in high school.
He'd only been like 5 years playing basketball for 5 years.
Exactly.
When he got to the NBA.
So we knew he had the athleticism. We knew he could dunk. We knew he can block. We know he could play a little bit of defense here and there. But as an overall basketball player, the talent was still raw.
Yeah.
What has he been doing since the pandemic? Developed a jump shot. And let's not compare Mitchell Robinson to like Hoodie Melo. Because, when Carmelo's in the gym and he's got his hoodie on, he's just draining shots left and right and whatnot. But I've been seeing him practicing on set shots. He's developed a little dribble now. So if you could get Mitchell Robinson to kind of be going from just a dunk and defensive center to an all-around center where now people are going to have to respect him and a jump shot game and the ability that he could dribble to the hoop.
Yeah.
Man, I'm talking about that's almost in an Isaiah Thomas-esque pick. And allow me to explain. When it comes to contracts and numbers, Isaiah Thomas might be the worst general manager in the world. When it comes to talent and fresh rookie talent, Isaiah Thomas might actually be one of the best in the world. This the same guy when the Knicks missed out on Steph Curry, turned around and said, well, look, why don't you go ahead and take this kid, Brendan Jennings? He's in Italy. He's really good. I suggest you get him. So what would the Knicks do in typical New York Knicks fashion? Drafted Jordan Hill out of Arizona and then traded him to Houston for an agent, Tracy McGrady, to put butts in the seats.
Oh, no. That's right. I forgot about that.
You get what I'm saying? That's stupidity. Yeah. So, and this is the same, and remember, this is the same Isaiah Thomas who drafted Channing Frye, Nate Robinson, and David Lee all in the same year.
Yeah.
2 of them have rings. I'm not sure if Nate Robinson has one, but I know Lee has one.
Yeah.
And I know Channing Frye has one.
Yeah. They might both have 2. Because they, and not only that, all 3 of those guys were out of nowhere. I mean, Channing Frye had a really nice career in college, but nobody expected him to be a top-level NBA player, and certainly nobody expected him to be along in the league this long. And Nate Robinson, nobody gave him a chance out of Washington because he was so small. And even Knicks fans were probably a little bit skeptical about him at first because it's like, how long does that last? This short guy who has bounce, And then, on top of that, when you look at David Lee, he was very, very, very underrated out of college, and he had those 2 really dominant years before he went to Golden State.
Yep.
And Golden State, he was more of a role player. But yeah, dude, that's funny you mentioned that because I didn't even think about that. And it is crazy that you can have a GM who's so bad at some things, but so good at other things.
Yeah.
And that's why you really do need a basketball operations guy. That's why you do need a scouting department.
Yep.
That's why you need the way that Thibodeau was trying to do things in Minnesota was wrong.
And stupid on top of that,
right.
too.
He was so handcuffed in Chicago that when he went to Minnesota, he said, I'm not going to be handcuffed here. You're going to give me free reign, and you're going to let me do what I want. And that ruined him a little bit, right? He's not a team builder. I don't think he realized that until he was in Minnesota. And probably Leon Rose talked some sense into him and said, listen, I know what I'm doing here. We have the foundation laid here. I don't want you to because when Tibbs is focusing too much on player personnel, he's not focusing enough on the team. And you saw it in Minnesota. He tried to work them so hard in Minnesota, and it didn't work. It backfired on them. And you have a lot of young players that's going to be on the team next year for New York. He's going to try and break them in, right? The very least he can do is let the GM and let the front office do their thing, bring in the players that obviously he wants. But it's a good point that some guys are really good at some things and not very good at other things, and you just have to focus on their strengths.
All right. So like I said, De'Aaron Fox, you're right. He's on his rookie deal, so he's only worth like $6 million for another couple of years. All right.
So you would have to give them something better. So who's an inflated contract you have right now? Not one that's on an option. You guys don't have much. You guys have a lot of guys coming off the books.
Maybe Julius Randle.
See, if you did Julius Randle, then it would have to be like Julius Randle, the number 3 pick. Frankie, we'll do Frank in there as well, and then you do De'Aaron, those 2 ugly contracts, and maybe future picks. I think it's a good deal for both teams. I think if you're the Knicks, you can kind of do without Julius Randle at this point. You get his money off the books, and you can go out and find another. I mean, Julius Randle, he wants to be Dwight Howard, and he's in Derrick Rose's body. You know, like he wants.
Come on, man! This man is coming out here like, man, I could bring the ball up like LeBron James, bro. No, you can't. That's why we need a point guard. Yeah. Every time that ball is in your hand, De'Aaron Fox like, man, give it here.
give me that ball.
Okay, because my one of my buddies was telling me that I guess Chris Paul and Leon Rose have a really good relationship, and maybe
that would make a lot of sense, to be quite honest. That would make a lot of sense.
There's talks about maybe the Knicks might be looking in trying to maybe trade to bring in Chris Paul. It better not be for that. If it's for a pick in where let's say the Knicks miss out of the top 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And you say to yourself, okay, look.
Got the number 7 pick.
There's really not that much talent after 5. So do we dare really trade the 6th or 7th, let's say 7th overall pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Chris Paul?
Oh, man.
See, it's rough because it seemed like Chris Paul at this point is an ageless wonder. Like, this man has no intentions of retiring anytime soon. But you have to look at the value of Chris Paul. I think Shannon Sharp said it best when he was talking about the NFL draft. You have so many people that value these first-round picks so much that they're not willing to trade a first-round pick for talent that's already developed. Because so many people, and the Knicks are great examples of this, where you would trade a first-round pick for a washed-up star, and then you become the laughingstock. Yeah. And it's like that in the NFL, where if someone came to a team like, okay, I'll give you a prime example because I think the trade's going to work out. You had the Buffalo Bills that desperately needed a wide receiver. Yeah. So they went out and it's like, look, Minnesota, we'll trade Stephon Diggs. We'll give you our first-round draft pick. We don't care. Why? Because the Bills were drafting between 20 and 30. I forget which one it was specifically.
It was late in the round.
But they were drafting between 20 and 30.
Yeah.
I'm going to give me a guy who's got some of the best hands in the NFL, and I know he's a great wide receiver, and we need a wide receiver. So I'm going to take talent that I know I can have and trade maybe a what if. If whatever Minnesota did with the pick becomes out great, that's fine, but we got our guy. Yeah. But how stupid do you look that if you needed a wide receiver, it didn't work out, and then you get like these reports I keep coming in my phone. Well, it sounded like Kemba Walker really wanted to go to the New York Knicks at first. No, you didn't, because the whole time you were talking when you were a free agent with Charlotte, you specifically said you didn't want to come back to New York. So I don't want no Rudy Poo report coming from Bleacher Report to tell me that you actually were considering playing for the New York Knicks, because it's a damn lie. That's just like those reports coming out talking about when Damian Lillard, who is absolutely on fire, came out and said, I almost got traded to the New York Knicks, but I don't know what fell through. Something about me doesn't make sense, because you're going to tell me that the New York Knicks were that stupid, and I wouldn't put it past you, that they would have went out there and realized, man, this is one of the best point guards in the game. We're a team that needs a flipping point guard. We're not going to trade some future assets for already developed talent for a
Yeah.
bunch of what ifs? Come on, man. I hate getting these reports. Every time I look up, Steph Curry wanted to be with the Knicks. Kemba Walker wanted to be with the Knicks. Dame Lillard wanted to be with the Knicks. LeBron James and Dwayne Wade almost came to the Knicks.
Yeah.
There's always this almost should have, would it, but it's never happened.
Yeah.
Who's dropping the ball or who's lying?
Yeah, it's more so that the Knicks are so popular in the league and in pop culture and in basketball that the subject is always when a free agent comes out. Do you want to go to New York? Do you want to go to the Knicks? Do you want to go to New York? And you know, I thought the Kemba stuff was petty because the Kemba stuff was based around the fact that I thought that they were going to go out and get somebody with me, and it's like, well, they could have. You know, they. Let's be honest. What the Knicks did was a contingency plan, right?
Right.
When they went out and signed 5 power forwards, and and basically gave them all either other than Julius Randle 1-year deals. That was a contingency plan. That was like, listen, that shit fell through. Let's figure out what we're gonna do to field the team next year. So yeah, I'm not, and that's the problem with sports media now is Bleacher Report and these other sort of smaller, non-reputable sources start to leak themselves into the actual zeitgeist of the sport. So like, because Bleacher Report is now associated with Turner Sports and TNT, and because TNT is so in depth in the NBA coverage, now Bleacher Report has a a power sort of
this
source.
Inside source to everything now.
It's a little bit sad because Bleacher Report, I like it for what it is. It's an entertainment. It's an entertainment aspect of sports. It's not supposed to be the Washington Post. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, it's not supposed to be something where you're like, yeah, let's listen to what they say, because at the end of the day, the Bleacher Report is because the players have warmed up to Bleacher Report because it makes the players more famous. It makes them more, it makes them more marketable. It makes them more money at the end of the day, right? If you're Devin Booker, you love to see that Bleacher Report is giving you free press. They're posting you as the savior of the league because you've had a great bubble, and all props to Devin Booker. I'm not trying to throw shade, but I'm just saying that Bleacher Report is not a source that you should be using. They're somebody that is an entity in the league and in the world because it's an entertainment thing. But yeah, no, I also think what you're talking about is valid because there's a sense of there's always a sense of like hesitancy when it comes to what are you gonna go, because what LeBron did with the decision was he made it so that every single person who has a free agent decision, okay, spotlight's on them, where are you gonna go, and now it's like this entertainment thing, and I'm glad to see, and also I think the Chris Paul thing works. I think the problem with the Chris Paul thing is I think he's worth like $38 million now.
Yeah, I know, it's insanity.
And that who knows how that's going to look in 2 years. That's a huge risk for New York and a huge risk for a franchise that's trying to make less risks when it comes to decisions. So I would say they're probably better off and more realistically in the running for De'Aaron Fox than they are Chris Paul.
If it comes down to that.
Yeah.
It all depends on what happens with the ping pong balls. It also depends on even if some of these teams play in the second bubble, because really, you really can't just end the season and say, okay, well, this is where we're going to finish.
And 8 teams didn't get to play.
And 8 teams didn't get to play. Because some team might be like, hold on, man, I'm trying to improve, trying to get in that top 3.
One of them is Golden State. I mean, if you're Golden State, you've got to be upset. You're like, listen, we want to be able to keep up our form because let's remember, this year is going to affect next year.
Yep.
We don't know what next year is going to look like.
Yep.
Especially like in the MLB, how is next year going to look? When are we going to start? I mean, if the season is set to end right now, closer to the end of the year, and we're looking at only like a month and a half, 2 months between basically ending baseball and spring training, that's going to affect next year. So let's see what the CBA people and all the behind the scenes people think of this, because it's definitely going to be they're going to be shorthanded next year. Most
definitely. But I'm telling you what, the NBA bubble has been entertaining. Damian Lillard has more or less put screw the Portland Trail Blazers, the entire NBA on his back with his insane play. And, I read something the other day where there was a guy who's a Knicks fan who was highly upset with the way that the Knicks let Carmelo go and how much of an asset that he has been to the Portland Trailblazers during this time.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, dude, why are you so upset now that they let him go? Like, the Knicks weren't going anywhere. The relationship between the Knicks and Melo was so unfixable that they had to let him go.
Yeah. The whole league let him go. Let's be honest. Portland was the only team that gave him a legitimate shot. Oklahoma City wanted him to be on the bench and basically shoot 18-foot jumpers. The whole experiment that they made in Portland, it works. So,
remember, he tried to go to Houston. Remember, he was chomping at the bit to go to Houston because he wanted to play with James Harden. But my only problem
you don't play defense, bro.
And your coach is Mike D'Antoni, the same guy you just got fired out of New York. So why are you so eager to want to go back over there? And when he did, he didn't last a season there.
Yeah, they didn't like him because of his work rate too.
Right,
he wasn't working the way that they wanted.
Exactly. So he goes to Portland, kind of changes the game up a little bit, maybe recognizes like, hey, Dame is the guy. I can still play my game, but yes, Dame is now the guy on his team. He's the man. The wins and losses really go through him. I'm just going to do what I can to contribute to the squad.
Yeah.
And the Portland Trailblazers look good. Now, I know they got a tall task. I think they got the Lakers in the first round, which is not going to be easy.
Do they have a playing game today? I want to say they have.
I don't know if they did here. I'm gonna
check it out because I think they have a playing game today. And whoever wins that would get the Lakers. And good luck with that because the Lakers have looked good too. When LeBron's on the court. But also, something to take in consideration with Melo is the Blazers changed his position.
They do have a playoff game.
They do. Okay,
it's
with
them
Memphis,
and the Grizzlies.
Right? Okay, yeah. So whoever wins that would essentially get the Lakers, and good luck to you. But yeah, no, the Blazers, they should be commended. What they've done with Melo is they've changed his position. They've changed the way he plays. He's not really. He used to play like a 0.3, 0.4, and point forward is what you kind of would refer to it as now. And now he's more of a smaller wing four, and they're allowing him to do pick and rolls, get open threes, and open looks is very good for him, and that's what he needs right now because in Houston, not everything. It's very obvious what Houston wants to do, right? It's like they're gonna just try and pinball the ball around until somebody gets an open or close to open shot, but you're always going to be nearby them. And with Portland, it's different because you have to pay so much attention to Damian, and then you have to also pay attention to CJ McCollum. And by the way, they have a really good big man in Nurkic, and they have a couple of young good big men in Collins and other guys. So it's looked really good for Carmelo, and I wouldn't blame the Knicks or anybody else. I mean, let's be honest, the Bulls traded for the guy. When he was getting pinballed around the league, and they decided to buy him out. So, the whole league missed out on what could be Carmelo.
Yep. Most definitely. So we'll keep an eye out on what's going on in the NBA. Like I said, there are a lot of people, everybody and their mom has been having fun with the NBA. And so much so that Adam Silver's thinking like, hey, man, if this stuff is still around come next year,
do it next year.
We're gonna bubble it up again next year. So we'll figure out how that works out.
Oh, and the funny part is what triggered Damian was the whole Dame time.
Yep.
Patrick Beverley, because it's like you don't want to wake up that sleeping giant in Dame, dude. Like Paul George and Patrick Beverley talking all that Twitter talk. You better be careful, dude. This dude is not about Twitter talk.
What's up to Derek Addis? What's going on, bro? Hey, speaking of why did you brought that up in it? Oh, Paul George.
Paul George,
You want to talk about being the ass of a lot of jokes for Paul George.
Yeah.
I saw a collab video of Paul George taking so many L's. The Devin Booker shot, he took an L.
Yeah.
He took an L in the Dame shot. He's been dunked on so many times. For a guy that comes out there calling himself playoff P, he's looking like a lot of playoff crap. Because this dude has been on the wrong end of a lot of L's.
And Damian called him out. He said, keep running from the grind. Keep switching teams. And you could tell that struck a chord with Paul George because after the game, that's when Paul George was like, there's nothing personal between me and Damian. We were just talking, da-da-da. And I'm sure Dame was like, fuck you. That's not how I was talking about it. I was being real.
Right.
I mean, people forget, dude. He is a rare breed, Damian Lillard.
Yep.
He wants to stay in Portland. He didn't run. I mean, let's be honest. Portland has had some really heartbreaking seasons over the last couple of seasons. They had seasons where you're like, wow, they're the best team in the league, and then they lose. And if you're Damian, it would have been really easy to go, dude, the Knicks want me, the Bulls want me, all these teams want me, trade me. And instead, he's not running from the grind. He's in Portland, and I guarantee you he will be a guy that's similar to Kobe. He will be there for the rest of his career. They're going to build around him, and I think he's going to get a championship one day. I don't know how. I don't know what it's going to take, but the way that this guy plays, he puts a team on his back, and that's tough to do, right? It's tough to do for a whole 3 or 4 playoff series. But from what we're seeing right now, if McCollum can step up a little bit, having Melo step up just a little bit, having these guys like Zach Collins and Nurkic and some of these other guys step up, you may be able to see it. And by the way, they've got a lot of young, like PJ Dozier came out of nowhere for them and was, scoring 20+ points for them. So props to his name is escaping me. What's their coach's name?
Oh, in Portland?
Yeah.
Terry Stotts.
Terry Stotts. Amazing coach and great builder. And they've stuck with him. Let's be honest with you, with each other here. They could have fired him 2 years ago. He had a couple of losses where you're like, maybe it's time to get rid of Terry Stotts. And they stuck with him too. So, Damian Lillard doesn't run from the grind.
He doesn't. He's said, like, nah, man, I don't even want to be a part of that super team nonsense. I'd rather beat y'all than join y'all.
Respect to him, man.
And that's mad respect.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, that's mad respect, man.
Yeah.
That is mad respect. Let's quickly go into baseball before we get to the AFC South.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at the records right now because ESPN was featuring the Baltimore Orioles, believe it or not, because the Orioles coming into today,
Orioles and Marlins
are 11-8. They're 2 games behind the Yankees. Yankees are 13-6.
Wow.
With the Rays being 2 games behind, they're 12-9, but they have 2 more games in hand than the Yankees and Orioles. So the Rays have played 21. Both the Yankees and the Orioles have played 19.
Hitting the cover off the ball, dude.
Oh, I know, dude. I mean, they got smoked last night, thank God, because the Yankees have Boston for now the next 3 days. They have a 4-game series.
That'd be nice.
And here's the funny thing, and I was thinking about this yesterday when I was looking at the score, because Garrett Cole has now won 20 straight decisions, and he's 4 away from the all-time record.
Unbelievable.
The Red Sox were never meant to be really good this year. Like, I'm glad we're beating them, but knowing that they were going to suck, like, the wins don't hold that much merit outside of us. Right. Outside of us building up a much better cushion away from Baltimore and a much better cushion away from the Rays, because we got to build up any momentum we can going into Tuesday, because the Rays are now in for 3 after they took 3 or 4 from us last weekend.
Yeah.
So these games right here are important for the Yankees to build. But again, this isn't one of those, Boston sucks, we beat you. Yeah, they're our rivals. Yes, I can't stand them. But it just doesn't hold the same merit because we knew that they were going to suck.
Yeah.
But, man, I mean, I'm looking at, some of these other teams. I mean, look, Minnesota's 12-7. Cleveland's a game and a half behind them. Detroit and Chicago are respectively 2 games behind them. So the Central is up for grabs.
Both Centrals have been really surprising this year.
Most definitely, because if you go over to the NL Central, the Cubs are 13-4. Obviously, St. Louis is still 2-3. They got a lot of games to make up.
Yeah. Cincinnati
and Pittsburgh are going to be out of commission. But I mean, the Cubs got a comfortable 5-game lead over Houston. Over Houston. Oakland is 14-6. They have a 4-game lead over Texas, 4.5 over Houston. The Marlins have 2-game lead over Atlanta, but they have played. But Miami's another team that's got to play a lot of doubleheaders coming up here soon.
But they've been surprising as hell, man.
Yeah.
They've been fielding like AAA teams and have been beating people. So.
Yep. The Colorado Rockies are 12-7. They're a game behind LA, who's 14-7. So Colorado has a couple games to make up, with the Padres being 3 games behind them. So in the early going, the thing about this baseball season was knowing that it's a 60-game season was you were going to kind of know that these younger teams might actually have an edge over the older teams because they're going to sustain that young energy, and
the
teams
legs.
aren't right, and the legs, and the teams aren't going to be able to really figure them out per se, because think about it. Sometimes you might be older and faster than somebody, but sometimes when someone is smarter than you, that old and fast means nothing if someone's smarter than you. That's why a team like, the Rays might get a lot of attention because they're a young team that's got a decent starting rotation with a decent bullpen and guys that could put the bat on the ball might outlast a team like the Yankees, but the Yankees are just too good. You know what I'm saying? When you got if James Paxton can never figure it out, I don't think he's healthy personally, but if he could figure it out and if the Yankees could get this health thing, because now Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge are now both back on the IL, and it's like, come on, dude. But how good is Brian Cashman? Okay, Judge is going to be out. Sucks. Okay, Giancarlo's going to be out. Sucks. So what does Clint Frazier do when he gets called up? All he did was win 4 for 4 in the game against Atlanta on Tuesday. What does Mike Tauchman do? I don't know. Just does nothing but hit a couple of RBI doubles yesterday against Boston. So once again, the Yankees are playing the next man up game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we already know that their bullpen is solid. Zach Britton has done a great job. Aroldis Chapman is almost back on, back to coming back. He threw 25 pitches the other day. Mm-hmm. So the Yankees are starting to get better. But when you get a team like the White Sox that kind of caught fire, the Twins are still playing well. Detroit, I don't know where they're coming from, but they're coming up. But, I mean, even look at a team like the A's. The A's might be one of the most perfect examples.
Right,
real young team, no big-time stars, a bunch of guys that play collective baseball and they're doing a great job, so much so that if the season ended today, the cheating-ass Astros wouldn't even be in the playoffs.
which is so gratifying for baseball fans to see
and
how sucky they are this year.
How much of a douche was that batting coach that came in and tried to
Alex Cintron, what a
clown, dude.
Yeah, and I'm glad what Laureano said. Laureano was a class act about it. He said that dude wasn't worth it, and I'm glad what Rob Manfred did was what he did. I mean, we give him a lot of shit on this show because he deserves it, but he gave Alex Cintron 20 games.
Yep.
He said, listen, dude, we can't have coaches going out on the field and instigating fights. And it's like, dude, you're such a tough guy from the dugout. You're going to, call somebody in. They have tape of him calling him in.
And then took 2 steps towards him like he wanted to
wanted to fight. It's like, dude, and he didn't want smoke. That's the funniest part is when Laureano came, he was like, he didn't want to smoke with Laureano. So and from what everybody says, Laureano is a class act, one of the nicest guys in the league, and he had to there was a lot of discussion about they talked about his mom, and you don't talk about people's moms in Latin culture. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that at this point. It's like, we are in the middle of a global pandemic. We are lucky to have a MLB season where we can be entertained by this. Stop with this unnecessary bullshit, which, again, I'm not saying that fight put in anybody's lives in danger, but it did, because if somebody had something and somebody spread it to the 30, 40 people that were on the field, we're talking about another stoppage. And again, all it's going to take, dude, is one team to have 5 people who are asymptomatic, and those 5 people get reckless, and they meet another 5 people, and they meet another 5 people, and then we've got 2 teams who are fully done and need to quarantine for 2 weeks. That's not what we want at this point, and it's also going to jeopardize the season. So that's why it's so important for especially when it comes to these types of fights, to avoid them. And Alex Cintron is a huge douchebag for that one.
I think it's hilarious. The one thing without having fans is hearing the coaches and players getting just so upset with the umpires.
They've been really bad this year, though. I'll be honest with you. The umpires have been really bad this year.
Angel Hernandez.
He's in full form, though.
Oh my God, this man is awful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen these little videos on Facebook. I can't think of what this guy's name.
Compilation videos of
and it's this guy who
John Boy. I think it's John Boy. John Boy. I love him. He's very good. Yeah.
Hilarious. He's like reading the lips. He's like, F you, man. That's off the plate.
That's off the plate, yeah.
Oh, my God. They're gold. There was one where Phil Nevin got thrown out in the game against Philadelphia where Mike Ford got caught off on the pitch blatantly is inside.
Yeah.
Angel Hernandez calls strike 3. Phil Nevin's like, that is horse crap, dude. Angel, you suck. And then Angel just rings him up. And I mean, Mike's picking up everything. I mean, Phil Nevin is just dropping
Wasn't
F-bombs
Angel Hernandez the one that Aaron Booth said, my dudes are savages in that box?
It wasn't Angel Hernandez.
Okay,
it was a younger cat.
Yeah.
But same
but
thing.
they've honestly all been bad. I mean, I've watched 3 or 4 games where the strike zone was completely all over the place. I mean, you know how it is, right? By now, we've watched enough baseball to know, okay, the high strike is being called. That means that the strike zone's a little bit higher. Okay, we can make that adjustment, right? But when the high strike is being called, the low strike is being called, the away strike is being called, the inside strike is being called, there's no way to hit.
Yep.
And listen, there's a lot of speculation about, obviously, right now, the ball that they're playing with right now is not the ball that they were playing with 10 years ago.
Right.
We know that now, right? We can make all the speculation we want about whether or not the ball's juiced. I've seen some balls that were hit off the end of the bat that left the ballpark, and that isn't something that you want to see as a pitcher, right?
Right.
So pitchers now are in a unique position, and umpires are too. Umpires need to control the game, and I think this year more than anyone has been an example of why maybe robot umpires is needed at this point, because they've done really no good. And I'll be honest with you, as a White Sox fan, it's been borderline terrible some games. I mean, you've got Yasmani Grandal, who's one of the most patient hitters in the league. And in the last 5 years, he's been one of the most patient hitters in league history. And this year, because of how bad the balls and strikes have been called, he's swinging and missing at like a 40% clip or something like that. And most of them are outside of the zone. So when you got historically great hitters and patient hitters who are missing that badly, it's telling you that the umpires are doing a really bad job.
Yeah, there was one in particular game between the Nationals and the Mets where I guess Strasburg got thrown out of the stands.
From the stands, yeah.
Because this guy called a low strike that was clearly a ball.
Yeah.
And then the guy threw the same exact pitch, and it was called a strike. And Pete Alonso was like, dude, you just threw out Steven Strasburg on the same pitch.
Yeah.
How was that not a strike 5 minutes ago, dude?
Yeah.
So if you call that a ball, this one's a ball. Like, what's going on?
No consistency.
And it's no consistency whatsoever. It's none. And that's basically like, okay, you didn't buckled under the pressure. Now you made yourself look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So let me rectify it by now ringing this guy up on the same pitch? Come on, dude.
And people want to make excuses for him saying, well, they didn't get a preseason either, and they're rushing on. Okay, but at the end of the day, like, let's just put this out, for example. There was one pitch, I forgot what game it was. It was nearly in the dirt, and it was called a strike. I forgot which one it was. It was that John Boy guy, the same one that I'm sure you watched. What happens after that game? Does that umpire get a call and say, hey, that wasn't a strike, bro? Like, we need more transparency on how these people are being held accountable. Because let's be honest, they changed the game with that shit. And there's been a couple games with the White Sox. Again, I'm a little bit biased, but there's been a couple games with the White Sox where the strike zone was fucking terrible, and our guys are savages in that box, and they're not able to do their thing because of just terrible umpiring. So I was hoping that it was just okay, they're rusty, but now it's looking like these guys just are making their own rules.
They're just garbage.
At this point.
Yeah, they're just garbage.
And that pisses me off because it's a shortened season.
And on top of that, I love how if you criticize the umpire, you get fined for it. Like, basically they're saying
silly.
They're basically saying that's like if you have a brother and your brother hit you, you hit him back, and then you go and tell, and they be like, we're the only ones that'll hit him. Nah, man, I'm not finna. No. I'm in the heat of the moment. I just got hit. I'm gonna swing back.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with these players, where it's like, why does Major League Baseball get to say who sucks and who doesn't? When I'm telling you right now that strike zone you gave me was complete garbage, and I'm gonna get fined $150,000 because what I was telling you the truth, and I beat you to it, basically.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And it's gonna be even worse. Just imagine what it's going to look like in playoffs. I mean, when the pressure is on and every single fucking ball that crosses that plate is so crucial, you're going to have Angel Hernandez back there calling strikes in the dirt. It's one of those things where, again, I want the MLB to come out and really make fans understand how these people are being held accountable. I mean, we all understand that at our jobs, if we do a shit job at our jobs, we're not going to be there for quite much longer. And,
Right.
and also, if we're doing a shit job, they're going to correct us and tell us how to do a better job. And I don't see that right now, specifically with guys like, the Angel Hernandez's. There's a couple guys like Mark May, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
He has been absolutely atrocious. And the worst part is
Laz Diaz, terrible
and they've got the other thing is they've got new umpires this year. That's a huge part of it. They've got one guy, I think he's the first guy ever from the Dominican Republic to be an umpire. He has been so bad. I mean, the issue is that you've got these guys who They make bad calls, and then they are making worse calls because the players are showing them up.
Yep.
And like, how's a player not supposed to show you up, bro? You just ruined that at bat for him, and now he has to go back and smile and make sure that everything's good to go before he goes to the dugout. That's stupid. It's childish.
It's absolutely childish. So I'm with you at this point. Rob Manfred needs to figure out how this whole robot umpire thing is gonna go.
They have it. They just have to enact it. Because remember, like the technology that ESPN and Comcast Sportsnet and Yes Network are using,
like the K-Zone
the
and all
K-Zone,
that, yeah.
that is there. We have that. You know what I'm saying? What I would say is every single, and I think Comcast for the Sox game does this sometimes. They'll have the strike zone for you. They'll show you where it landed, and then they'll also show you whether or not that was a strike previously. Was it called a strike here? And we know how pitchers are. If they get that inside strike, they're gonna attack you inside now because they know they got that inside strike. So robot umpires has to come, but then you're gonna get the baseball purists who are gonna say, well, not every single ball that's right on the edge is a strike. Then where's the strike zone? We can't have it both ways, right?
Right.
If the strike zone is a thing that's undeniable, that us as baseball fans and people who have played baseball understand the concept of a strike zone.
Right.
That is essentially the zone where you are able to hit something. And now you have these calls where, based on the framing of the catcher, there's a couple of really good framers out there. Let's be honest. I mean, there's catchers who can make a ball a strike very easily with the flick of the wrist, right? And that's part of the problem is you have the deceit, and that's what they're worried about now is the human error, or I guess the error between the computer and the human of, if I pull a strike back up that's traditionally a strike, is the computer going to call that a strike? It's
minor adjustments, ladies and gentlemen. That's just minor adjustments.
We're going to need to.
The umpires have had time to make such minor adjustments, and they haven't.
Right.
So now the catchers are going to have to make minor adjustments. Okay, I know they're not going to call that a strike, so now we're going to have to have them hit that, clip that area and see if the computer... It is what it is, but what we're dealing with right now can't keep happening.
No, especially with the juice ball.
Yeah.
They're trying to like make this balance, and there's no balance to it. It's just.
So when we say Robert, I keep saying that, robot umpires, are we talking about like legit?
From what I understand, the thought process is you would still have umpires on the field.
Right.
The home field umpire is only relaying what the call is.
Okay, so they have a buzzer in their hand.
It's I think they tried it in the MLB this year or last year, and it's basically the home plate umpire is still making calls at home, and all the umpires are still making the calls on the bases, but the balls and strikes are being called by the computer and then fed into the ear of the umpire, and then the umpire is making the call. So it was a little bit of a delay. It was the pitch was made, whereas usually you'd have the call done. The pitch is made, maybe a half a second or a second later, you get the call from the umpire. So the Umpires Association obviously was not a huge fan of this. That's like saying, the Truckers Association are not really down for automatic cars, you know what I'm saying, or self-driving cars. That's quite obvious, right? They wouldn't be, because they would all be out of jobs.
Right.
So to say the umpires are not on board with the robot umpires is, I don't need to hear that, because that's, again, if you were to do your job better, you wouldn't have to deal with this. And, they're talking about, cutting their pay. They say that it's so hard to be a home plate umpire. Like, they say that if you're a home plate umpire, that's why you move to third the next day because it's so tasking on your brain and your body. Then you know what, bro? Get another job.
I know that's right.
That's all I'm going to say. Same thing I say about every other job that's on this planet. If you can't handle the job description, bro, maybe you should just get another job. Find another career. Find another niche for yourself because that's not right for you. If you're saying that bending over home plate and calling, 200 pitches in a game is so crazy for you that the next day you can barely work, then maybe we do need robot umpires. And that's a mentality we have to have across the board. I mean, I hate to turn this into like a tangent that applies to our lives, but it's like, yo, if you're in the warehouse right now and you're a warehouse worker, you better start figuring out other skills right now because when the robots come, you're not going to have a job. When you're, if you're a truck driver right now, start finding some other things that you might be able to do because automated truck drivers are coming soon, and they're going to be way cheaper. They're not going to need rest. They're not going to need to, a reset time.
Right.
This is applicable to all of us in our lives. That if we don't improve at what we do, these motherfuckers are going to take over, and in the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be crazy. But we're going to see cars and trucks on the road that have nobody in them.
Yep.
That's just the way that it is.
That's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. All right, well, let's get into the NFL. We have about, a half hour, 45 minutes before we have to go.
Let's go. I'm so psyched for our football this year.
We're going down to the AFC South, and funny that we would go to the AFC South, and the first thing I see on ESPN has to do with Jacksonville Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette. Let's see what he's saying.
What did he do?
Let's see. God gets angry when things don't go his way on the field. Doesn't take football seriously. Jacksonville Jaguar running back Leonard Fournette has been described these ways, basically being called lazy. Let's see. What is he saying? Fournette admits that his attitude after some games hasn't been the best, especially after losses, mainly because there's been a lot of them when they were combined. There were a combined 21 in 2018 and 19, which piled up after the Jaguars came 10 minutes away from making the Super Bowl in his rookie season.
Crazy, man. Yeah, they came so close.
Yeah, he said, at the end of the day, I just want us to win. Who doesn't want to win? I came from the 2017 season with a team who was 10-6. And we had a good talent level, and then the next couple of years went down the drain. So I just want to address a lot of things, especially since the media came out and said that I was angry. Number one, would you be angry if you were losing week in and week out? That is one of my biggest problems. I do get upset when we lose, and it takes me a while to get over it. I expect just like anybody else, if you put the work in, you want the W, but a lot of times last year it didn't go like that. He also said, quote, I guess they kind of misinterpret that, and don't get me wrong, I was upset from the losing. That's just the winner in me. That's any guy who plays this professional level of sports. Where's he lying?
Yeah. He better get used to that this year, though.
You know what my biggest problem is sometimes? And my biggest problem is when we as fans and as we sometimes as armchair quarterbacks have this expectation of what we think quarterbacks should be.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars as the greatest example. Was Blake Bortles the greatest quarterback in the world? No.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why Blake Bortles ended up failing. Because at the end of the day, they used Leonard Fournette as the workhorse that he was supposed to be. So they knew that their quarterback was above average at best, but you brought in a really great rookie running back who took a lot of the load, who ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers twice in that season. And you had wide receivers that could catch the ball. They weren't no Randy Moss, no Jerry Rice or nothing like that, but they were guys that could run the ball.
Yeah.
But when you went away from that in 2018 to try and make Blake Bortles into the second coming of Mark Brunell, you were destined to fail. And that's the problem that I've had with Jacksonville Jaguars, and we're more or less jumping into the AFC South, is because they went away from what made the team great. Yeah. Because all this Minshew mania, in my opinion, is a bunch of BS because nobody knows who Gardner Minshew is.
Yeah.
Like Nick Foles blatantly was not the answer. Nick Foles has never been the answer. Nick Foles, in my opinion, is nothing more than Jeff Garcia reincarnated. Jeff Garcia has never been that great of a starting quarterback. He was serviceable. He was okay. He was decent at best. He can get you to the playoffs.
Great backup.
He was a great backup.
Yeah.
That's all Nick Foles was. Don't get it twisted that Nick Foles went out and beat the almighty New England Patriots because I will go out to say that if Carson Wentz never got hurt, the Philadelphia Eagles would have done the same exact thing. That's how good that team was.
Yeah.
Because if Chicago Bears fans think that Nick Foles is the answer to any problems that they have at quarterback because they can't stand Mitchell Trubisky, you are the most delusional fans that have ever walked the face of this earth. I mean, let's just be real. What in Nick Foles' past makes you think that he can come in and save us? The Super Bowl ring? I think it was a flash in the pan because he had another chance to do it and he failed.
Yeah, and he's had one really statistically good year, and that was with, I think, the Rams.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's looked okay.
And that's saying a lot because I think the year he was with the Rams, he was with the perennial quarterback killer in Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
So you were damn near garbage in St. Louis. You were a backup in
Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia. Didn't he have a stint for a little bit with Kansas City? You were a backup then.
And then the next year you signed with Jacksonville for that. No, it was Jacksonville was after the Philadelphia.
After the Philadelphia season. Yeah. And you were a backup to Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, and he's going to, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think he's going to be a backup again this year.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly too.
If you're a Bears fan and you're expecting this guy to win the job in the camp, it's going to take a lot for him to win the job because Mitchell Trubisky already has the chemistry with this team.
Yeah,
and this team is not willing to admit they made a mistake with Mitchell Trubisky. So Nick Foles is going to be their backup contingency plan, but I fully expect that Mitch will start the season there.
Let me say this. I don't think that the Bears made a mistake with Mitchell Trubisky. I think the Bears have made a mistake by not putting formidable weapons around Mitchell Trubisky. Outside of Allen Robinson, who are we supposed to get the ball to?
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to talk up Anthony Miller. They drafted
average.
Tight end. Yeah, they drafted a tight end.
Average. It's all average, dude.
Yeah.
It's all average. Allen Robinson came out of where did he come from? Was it
Penn State? And then
no. Jacksonville. He
yeah.
came out of Jacksonville and was a monster wide receiver in Jacksonville. You bring him to Chicago, and when he's healthy, he's Trubisky's favorite target. Yeah. Outside of that, what do you got?
He's essentially like Trubisky's Michael Thomas, where it's like, I've got one receiver to throw it to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to throw it to this guy every single time because nobody else is
and let's not sit here and say and think that Mitchell Trubisky is the second Drew Brees because he's not.
No.
But when you have an average quarterback like that, why not go out and do what you can to bring another veteran wide receiver there? The blame that I have in all of this is what's his name? Nagy.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy, your head coach. Why did you go away from what really made you as good as you were back in 2018? Tariq Cohen is not a guy that you're giving the ball 25 times a game.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Jordan Howard.
Right.
But for some unbeknownst to me reason, you were so gung-ho to get rid of Jordan Howard and bring in Isaiah Washington because he's younger than Jordan Howard. He's, got that same style coming out of Iowa State and all this and everything else. But when you started the season, you had Tariq Cohen lined up like he was going to get carries.
Yeah.
That's not who he was. He was a guy. He was the Darren Sproles. He was
he's a gadget player. He's like
bingo.
Yeah.
And you took him away from that. So now when your gadget guy is out of the offense, it's just Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Your tight ends is always hurt. You have no second wide receiver. You have no slot wide receiver. And your offensive line is so bad that I don't even think Mr. Trubisky had more than 5 seconds to even scan the field to know where he was going to throw the ball. So as much as Mitch deserves some kind of criticism for his play, I don't think it's his fault. I think Ryan Pace let him down. I think Matt Nagy let him down by changing completely what the playbook was. And if they end up remotely going back to what they were back in 2018, not so much who they were in 2019, if you go back to 2018, the Bears can make a little bit of noise, but I don't think that's going to happen because Bear fans have given up on them. Why? Because you keep paying attention to what happens in everybody else's yard, and you're not. What is the guarantee that Patrick Mahomes would have been the same quarterback that he was he is in Kansas City?
It's time to get over that.
Think about that. Think about that. Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce, who just signed an extension. You have Tyreek Hill's one of the fastest wide receivers. Sammy Watkins, who many teams left for dead, has resurrected his career.
Andy Reid,
who's one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the game.
Yeah.
So you got all those guys. What makes you think that the Chicago Bears would have been in the same boat?
It's a big head.
And as far as I'm concerned, and I will go to the grave saying this, I think Deshaun Watson is one of the most overrated players in the NFL. Because think about it like this. As much as people say, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the game, DeAndre Hopkins isn't jack unless Will Fuller was 100%.
And they were feeding him the ball so much, and he was getting 10 catches for 65 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Bingo.
Yeah. And let's be honest about what happened with Matt Nagy. He got cocky.
Big time.
That first year, he did what nobody thought he could do. And what did he say? Well, Jordan Howard's not my type of running back. We don't need – what did they do? What was their big splash signing last year? Cordero Patterson. Who now, by the way, is lining up at running back. I mean, the ego that you have to say, I don't need a guy who's had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons in Jordan Howard, who, by the way, last year, did nothing but do really good things for Philadelphia when he was on the field. So, David Montgomery, who you thought was supposed to be, okay, you drafted this guy, he's going to be your number one running back. He wasn't even playing the first 6 games. It took you being shit as a team for you to put him in, and now you've changed the way that you play ball, and you expect that the defense is gonna hold you over. This defense is gonna be good again this year. Yep. I'm worried that they're gonna be wasted again this year.
Yep.
Because when you have a defense that good, if they can stay healthy, they're gonna be really good. But you can't do anything when your offense is stagnant. You know, the offense doesn't have to be world beaters, but they have to change field position. Can't have 3 and outs more than 2 or 3 times a game. You can't continue to have turnovers. You can't continue to have drops. Can't continue to have bad offensive line play, which all of these apply. So Matt Nagy, let's put it as simply as this. Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both fighting for their job this year. Mitch Trubisky's fighting for his career this year. And most of the Bears' offense is going to be fighting for jobs this year because the defense looks fine.
I'm going to tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'm trying to think. Give me a team that could really go for a quarterback.
Let's start with Jacksonville. I mean, I don't think they need one this year, but they're going to be in the hunt for one next year.
Jacksonville in the same boat as the Bears. We're outside of your running back. What do you got?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and look at it right now. Here's your wide receivers. DJ Shark Jr., D.D. Westbrook, and Laviska Shenault Jr., who they drafted in the first round.
Decent. I mean, DJ Shark is good, but other than that, maybe a couple number 3 receivers. Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. D.D. Westbrook ain't the same wide receiver he was when he was catching passes from Kyler Murray.
He's always getting hurt and dropping and stuff like that
in
too.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, if you're Minshew too, it's good. It's most of the success he had last year was with DJ Shark. So he's going to be a great fantasy player again this year. Shark.
I'm over here really thinking deep.
Trying to think of a team you're saying with a QB issue or that needs a QB. I mean,
I give you a good one.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good one. If Mitchell Trubisky was in Minnesota,
oh okay, oh yeah,
he would have better. And this is pre Stephon Diggs getting traded. If you put him with Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Stephon Diggs,
and a good offensive line,
I guarantee you Mitchell Trubisky will have 2 times the better numbers that he has in Chicago. He has no one to throw the ball to. He has no one. I mean, don't get me wrong. In that game against Green Bay, when he totally missed, who was the tight end that was in the back of the end zone?
Yeah,
Totally
Mike Burton. Yeah,
there you go.
Burton, yeah.
Trey Burton, whatever.
Burton, yeah.
Trey Burton. When he missed Trey Burton, hey, some quarterbacks miss throws. That's life. People are human.
My problem with Trubisky, though, is that it's not a physical issue with him. He doesn't know how to read defenses. He doesn't know, and that to me is a coaching issue. Like,
bingo.
You've got to be able, when the guy is telling you in his second year in the league that this is the first time I'm really comfortable with the playbook, that's not good.
No.
That's not a good thing. And let's remember, dude, he only started 1 year in college.
Yep.
He wasn't really a college guy. I mean, even like Mahomes, he had a pretty large career at Texas Tech.
Yep.
And let's remember that his coach at Texas Tech was Cliff Kingsbury, and was saying that he needed to stay in college. He needed that time in college because he had a rocket arm, but he wasn't understanding what it was to be a quarterback. And what's crazy is if you thought Mahomes was good now, he just started learning how to read defenses like last year. So
and he got the luxury of sitting behind Alex Smith for a year before Andy Reid realized that he was ready for the job.
Yeah, whereas Mitch Trubisky had to come in the third game of his rookie season and play under John Fox and get his ass kicked. And then the next year, great, you have Matt Nagy. And what we got out of Mitch Trubisky that year was still not that great. Let's be honest. If there was a replacement level quarterback on the team in 2018, we probably win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Because the record is better during the regular season. You probably don't have to play Philadelphia in that open round. And let's be honest, Philadelphia won that year, and the Bears were probably better than Philadelphia was that year. So there's obviously we're playing a semantics game about a 2020 vision, but I'm just saying in terms of the NFL, right? You can't hide ineptitude when it comes to the quarterback position. We've seen it in the past where it's like teams are like, just hand the ball off and throw it 10 times a game and we'll be fine. And you can't do that anymore in the NFL. You need a guy who can at least make the big throw, and that's why I think they brought in Nick Foles, because they're like, well, he's played in the Super Bowl and he's played in pressure situations. Okay, go ahead. We'll see how that works out for you guys.
I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Okay.
I'm going to say this.
Yes.
I'm going to get my ass kicked for saying this.
Uh-oh.
If Mitch sat behind Tom Brady with our offense in Tampa Bay, I would guarantee you he would do better than he did in Chicago.
Yeah.
There's what room for error do you have?
Yeah.
What room for error do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, don't get me wrong. Our offensive line could be a little bit better. It's going to improve. I love the pick of Tristan Wirfs. We needed offensive line.
Yeah. I thought Shady McCoy was a nice pickup, too. Really nice.
R.J. Deuce, Shady McCoy, O.J. Okay, let me take one back. I'm not even going to throw Gronk in there.
Yeah.
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J., Cameron Brate, R.J. Deuce with an above-average offensive line. I guarantee you Mitch Trubisky would do better than he did in Chicago. I will take that to the grave. If the Chicago Bears right now, if I got a ding on my phone that said that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have traded a fourth-round draft pick to the Chicago Bears for Mitchell Trubisky so that he could sit behind Tom Brady for the next 2 years, I would be all for it. And I guarantee you by the time Tom Brady's ready to retire and Mitchell Trubisky is ready to take the reins and our offense is still intact like I think it will be, I will laugh in every Bears fan's face if Mitchell takes us to the show.
Bears fans are so used to having shit QBs that they think that every time a QB underperforms, it's because they suck. And we have to understand that, like, Mitch Trubisky was put in a shit position.
Yep.
Let's be honest. If he was the number 26 pick in the draft, you would think, wow, Mitch Trubisky's pretty damn good.
Mitchell Trubisky was not even the best quarterback in most people's top five.
No.
He was fourth.
Some people said he was going to drop out of the first day.
I do remember that.
And the Bears picked him 3.
Yep.
So
2.
I'm sorry. And they traded up from 3, which is why I'm saying 3. So like I said, if he was the number 27 pick in the draft, we probably have a different conversation right now. But because he was selected so high, and Bears fans are just so used to shit QB play that they assume that every single QB sucks. And it's like, dude, this kid has got some skill in there. Trust me, he can make NFL throws. He's proven that. But the problem is when you put him in bad positions, when you've got guys like Anthony Miller who can't catch the ball when they need to, when you got guys like Trey Burton who are sitting out of games because of anxiety. And you don't really understand that how important he was. I mean, the tight end position, people were so, why are the Bears picking up so many tight ends? Because it's super important to this offense. You guys are going to see Cole Kmet this year. They drafted him high, and people were like, well, that was too high for a tight end. You just selected Jimmy Graham, or you just signed Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham's going to be a number 2, maybe number 3 tight end this year, okay? Cole Kmet is going to be the Travis Kelce, and you need a guy like that in this type of offense.
That's the kid from Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, very good player. The problem is, he doesn't fit what you usually would want in a tight end in the system because he's a big physical guy who is a pretty good route runner, and you want it the opposite. You want a very good route runner, a guy who knows exactly where he's at on the field and can make plays down the field. The Bears, let's be honest, they overachieved in 2018, severely underachieved in 2019, and this year's make or break for half of the fucking people in that building. So the defense, like I said, is going to be fine. Khalil Mack and they got Robert Quinn, and they were able to, they're going to get Akeem Hicks back healthy. They got Kyle Fuller. They drafted a cornerback. Eddie Jackson is back. They've got Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan in the middle. They're going to look fine. The problem is you're going to waste this defense if you're not able to figure it out on offense. And the same thing with some of these other teams we're going to talk about, even in the South. When you look at it in reality, you've got Indianapolis, who could really, really surprise some people this year, because let's remember, last year they were one of our favorite teams. The problem was they were just having a lot of inconsistency out of the quarterback position because obviously, Andrew Luck last second retires, and you got Jacoby Brissett, who's a tremendous backup, who has to sweep in and be your starter. Now you got Phillip Rivers. If you can figure it out defensively in Indianapolis, you just brought a guy who can bring you stability on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what the Bears need to understand. Bears fans need to understand is it's not all on Mitch's shoulders, man. We've got to do better around him and coaching-wise as well. And John DeFilippo, who's a very notorious quarterback guy around the league, they went out of their way to bring him in this year because they think he could fix Mitch. So we'll see. Let's
look at the Jacksonville Jaguars team. As you mentioned, Gardner Minshew is the starting quarterback. Mike Glennon is backing him up.
Oh, Mike Glennon.
Let me say something about
Bears
Mike.
Connection.
Let me say something about Mike Glennon. Yeah. There is not a quarterback, I believe, in this NFL that has gotten the worst end of the continuous stick than Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
Ever since Mike Glennon was drafted by Tampa Bay, he's gotten the shit into the stick. Let me explain.
Same year as Jameis, right? They drafted him.
They drafted him the year before Jameis.
Okay, got it.
Was it? No, it was 2 years before Jameis. Okay. Because what's his name was still our head coach. Shiano. Greg Shiano.
Okay.
So it'd have been 2 years before Jameis.
Well, end of Josh Freeman era then. Okay,
bingo.
Got it.
Because Shiano drafts Glennon. Mm-hmm. Couldn't wait to play him, so he found every excuse to bury Josh Freeman to put Mike Glennon in the most uncomfortable position as starter as the quarterback.
Yeah.
Then the next year, you bring in Lovie Smith, who brings in Josh McCown, who then battles Mike Glennon for the spot. Then you draft Jameis, you let McCown go, and then you bring in Dirk Cutter, and then you bring in Jameis, and then you swear up and down how, Jameis and Mike Glennon are, they both have great qualities and blah, 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 blah. But we all know that Jameis is starting.
Jameis' job,
so then you let Mike Glennon go. He goes to the Bears. The Bears have one of the worst offensive lines in football. So Mike Glennon,
he got eaten.
One of the least athletic quarterbacks in the NFL.
He's just really big. He's like 6'7", right? So he can't move, dude. He's like, you can't move when you're that big.
He's 6'7". He has a really good arm. Believe it or not, it's more accurate if you give him time to make the throws.
In the pocket, yeah, sure.
But he never had time to make the throws.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
And then let's be honest. I mean, they loved him in Oakland or in Oakland last year, but in Vegas now. And every single coach that gets in front of him loves him. It's crazy because he does. I mean, when the Bears signed him, let's be honest, the Bears fans are dumb. They don't really understand much anyway. So when they signed him, they're like, oh, why did you sign this career backup? Right? But in reality, they weren't looking at the fact that, like, okay, he fit what they were trying to do at the time with John Fox.
Right.
And John Fox had come off a pretty interesting year the year before himself and was trying to prove to them that all I need is a quarterback. You draft Trubisky in the way to say, okay, well, now we have our quarterback for the now and a quarterback of the future. And then 3 games in, Mike Glennon is getting ransacked in the backfield.
Murdered.
And then they say, okay, why don't we just put in Trubisky now? And it's like, and now you wonder why Trubisky's fucked up.
Yep.
That's what it is. But you're right. Short end of the stick for Mike.
So then, but like you said, so he goes to Oakland. John Gruden loved Mike Glennon, especially when, Gruden was doing those QB camp segments when he was on ESPN. He loved Mike Glennon.
He's a guy who knows how to read defenses like the back of his hand. That's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now he's in Jacksonville. So now let me say this for Mike Glennon. I'm
rooting for him.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
I have nothing against Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew is going to get exposed this year. I don't think Gardner Minshew is that good of a quarterback. He's okay. He came out of nowhere when Nick Foles got hurt. People didn't really know about him. And then the one game where he took on Tampa Bay, where they started Nick Foles when he came back from the collarbone issue, but he looked like so much crap that they had to bring Gardner Minshew to bring in this spark for the team, and they still look like garbage.
Yeah.
So I think personally, if Jacksonville gets off to a slow start, Mike Glennon has to come in. And when he comes in, I hope he does great. I hope he makes sure that every team before him, Tampa, Chicago, not so much Oakland, because I think, John Gruden was in a bad position where he wanted to play Derek Carr, but maybe I don't think he did. But I personally believe, I'm going to say 2 things, and I know I keep veering off of Jacksonville. I'm going to tell you 2 things because I just read it right now. A, Derek Carr is not a Raider after this year. B, he would be lucky if he even starts, because right now I just read that John Gruden is praising the play of Marcus Mariota, and I know for a damn fact that John Gruden can't wait to get Derek Carr out of Oakland. That's not his guy. That's not who he wanted. He knows that he runs the team for the next 9 years, 8 years, whatever it is. And as far as he's concerned, Derek Carr might as well just go ahead and find himself another team right now, because there's no way in hell he's in the silver and black.
And they extended him too, which was crazy because they extended him, and he's going to make a nice, pretty check from them, even if he doesn't play the next.
Exactly. So I'm rooting for you, Mike Glennon. I hope you get the starting spot at some point. I got you at some point, and
win at least 2 or 3 games.
Man, do something. I'm telling you, Mike Glennon is a better quarterback than people give him credit. But he's backing up Gardner. You got Leonard Fournette. You got DJ Shark, D.D. Westbrook, Laviska Shenault Jr., who we said that was their first-round draft pick. Tyler Eifert is down there. He's playing tight end. Left to right of the offensive line is Cam Robinson, Andrew Norwell, Brandon Linder, A.J. Cann, and Jawan Taylor.
That's a pretty good offensive line for a bad team.
Exactly. And then you have they're running a 4-3 defense. So Josh Allen, Aubrey Jones, Taven Bryan, and Yannick Ngakoue.
Who's there? They might trade him too,
because he was talking about he don't want to be down there.
He doesn't want to be on a franchise. I mean, they traded Calais Campbell to Baltimore for cheese. So
Yep. And then from Will to Strong is Miles Jack, Joe Schobert, and Cassius Marsh Sr. And then from left to right in the secondary is Trey Herndon, Ronnie Harrison, Jared Wilson are your 2 safeties, and then C.J. Henderson is your right cornerback.
The rookie kid from Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, that defense is going to struggle this year for sure. They got a pretty good front 4, or front 7 even, but that secondary is going to get eaten alive. Yeah.
Alive. And then looking at their schedule, they start off at home against Indianapolis, in Tennessee, home against Miami, back-to-back away games against Cincinnati and Houston, and then they're home against the Lions before they get the bye week in Week 7. And then to finish off their schedule, at LA Chargers, home against Houston, at Green Bay, back-to-back home games against Pittsburgh and Cleveland, at Minnesota, home against Tennessee, at Baltimore, home against the Bears, and then they finish at Indianapolis.
That is a really rough schedule, man.
5 wins if you're lucky.
Maybe. I mean, they have to win in the division if they want any chance, because that outside division the outside opponents, outside the division opponents are pretty tough.
Right.
Yeah, I think 5 wins is you would be happy if you're a Jacksonville fan and you got 5 wins this year, because this isn't the team of the future. Let's be honest. I mean, Fournette is going to be playing a tryout this year to stick around. So is Minshew. They're probably, if they're lucky, then they'll get a trade suitor for Yannick Ngakoue, because he's one of the best pass rushers in the league, and he's going to be stuck there. And they might as well trade him. They're not going to be able to use him. So yeah, 5 wins, and if you never know when it comes to them. They could be way under that.
Right. What do I got? Okay, I got the Houston Texans next.
Ooh, okay. Houstonians. No DeAndre Hopkins this year.
No DeAndre Hopkins. So you're working with Deshaun Watson as your starter. Then you have David Johnson with Duke Johnson behind him.
Oh my God, David.
That's who they. That's
I
who they
forgot
traded.
that's who they traded him for.
That's who they traded. What's his
my
name
God.
for? Then you got Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Randall Cobb are your wide receivers with Kenny Stills somewhere in there. Your tight end is going to be Darren Fells. Your left to right offensive lineman is Laramie Tunsil, Sinio Kelemete, Nick Martin, Zach Fulton, and Titus Howard. And then obviously the Texans run the 3-4. So J.J. Watt, Brandon Nunn, and Charles Omenihu is going to be from left to right.
Okay.
Then from will to strong is Whitney Merciless, Bendraric McKinney, Zach Cunningham, and Brendan Scarlett is from weak to strong. And then from left to right in the secondary is Garen Conley with Jalen Watkins and Justin Reed as your safeties, with Bradley Roby with somewhere in there Vernon Hargraves III.
Wow.
In the secondary for the Houston Texans.
That defense is rough.
Because J.J. Watt is getting old.
J.J.'s getting old. You got
Whitney Merciless is getting old.
Yeah. And then that secondary is not good at all either. So
then looking at their schedule, they get the Thursday night game at Kansas City, the banner-raising game to start off. Home against Baltimore, at Pittsburgh, back-to-back home games with Minnesota and Jacksonville, at Tennessee, home against Green Bay before they get the bye week in Week 8. To finish off, at Jacksonville, at Cleveland, home against New England, at Detroit, home against Indy, at Chicago, at Indy, home against Cincinnati, and home against Tennessee. Here's what I'm going to say. First off, either what's this fool's name? The head coach.
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. Either he's fired as GM or he's fired as both.
Yeah. He has to be fired. I mean, come on. The moves that he made this offseason are so – I mean, any GM who's going to take over for that guy, I feel bad for you.
Yep.
He just traded –
You have a lot of work to do.
He literally traded assets for Brandon Cooks. He went out of his way to trade assets for Laramie Tunsil when they didn't really – I mean, they needed an offensive lineman, but did they need Laramie Tunsil so badly that you traded multiple picks for him and first-round picks?
Yep.
And then on top of that, it's like David Johnson – really? That was the guy that you felt was good. David Johnson and Brandon Cooks. Those are your game breakers. I'm sorry. They're going to be in a couple. They're going to be in some shootouts this year. But other than that,
what I think Bill O'Brien did, he saw the 2017 David Johnson, the one that got a lot of people into, including myself, into a lot of fantasy football championship games.
Yeah,
because no one knew that he was going to come. People knew he was going to have that good of a season.
Yeah,
and people knew he was going to have a good season. They didn't know that he was going to have that good of a season.
Yeah.
Okay.
But last year,
right? Because the next year he gets hurt with the wrist injury. Right. He's gone for the year.
And last year, Nick, there were some games where he couldn't outrun defensive lineman.
No.
He was so, I don't know if he was hurt. I know there was rumors that he was playing hurt. He didn't look good at all in some games with Arizona.
So much so that they had to trade for Kenyon Drake, and he leaps and bounds took over the job.
And he and without a doubt was the better running back for the last 8 games.
And Bill O'Brien said, you know what? I see that 2017 David Johnson in you, so I'm going to only trade who many people believe is the best wide receiver in the game for you and some mid-round further picks later on.
Good for you, Bill O'Brien. And you know what?
Nice job.
You know what he said? He said, you know what? This is my last hurrah. I'm just going to get my guys, and shit, if this doesn't work out, good luck. But, yeah, I see maybe – honestly, I see maybe 6 wins.
6 wins. I was thinking same thing.
If they go 9-7, that should be a huge.
It'll save Bill O'Brien's job.
I was gonna say it might save his job, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking at it and you're like, that defense not gonna be able to stop anybody. They're notorious for already being a shootout team. Remember all those games against Kansas City and some of these other teams. So good luck, man. Deshaun Watson, we're gonna see him earn his bread this year because he hasn't gotten extended yet, right? Or did he get extended already? I think he might have gotten extended already.
I think he did.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, if you're Deshaun Watson, you're stuck now. They just traded your best asset, and they gave you an old running back in return. Good luck. Yeah, 9 wins for me is probably the max. I see that.
Let's talk about.
Let's do Tennessee.
That's
yeah, Tennessee. Because honestly, Tennessee really overachieved last year.
I think so, too.
And they were very close to the Super Bowl. And let's remember, I mean, they almost beat Kansas City last year. So I think there's a lot of high expectations for them this year. We'll see, because remember, they're going to ride Ryan Tannehill again and really hope that Tannehill train stays on the tracks. We'll see about that. What are they working with? They extended Derrick Henry, right? They gave him a 2 or 3 year extension.
So you got Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, obviously, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Adam Humphries, even though Corey Davis is hurt. That is your projected 3 starters in the wide receivers with Jonnu Smith as your tight end.
No more Delaney Walker, huh? I think he might have retired.
I think he retired. I think so. I think he did too.
Yeah.
From left to right, offensive line is Taylor Lewan, Roger Saffold III, Ben Jones, Nate Davis, and Isaiah Wilson takes over for Jack Conklin, who went to
Cleveland.
Yep, went to Cleveland. Yeah. They run the 3-4, so on the front 3 it would be Jeffrey Simmons, Daquan Jones, and Isaiah Mack. From wide to strong, Vic Beasley leaves Atlanta to come to Tennessee. Probably the best decision he's ever made. Screw Atlanta. Jayan Brown, Rashawn Evans, and Harold Landry III. With Malcolm Butler, Kenny Vaccaro, Kevin Byard, and Adoree Jackson in the secondary.
It's a strong secondary, but that front 4 or front 3, kind of rough.
Kind of rough, yeah. Then, looking at their schedule, they start off in Denver on Monday night as the second game, followed by at home against Jacksonville, at Minnesota, 3 straight home games against Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and Houston before they get into the bye week. And then they're at Cincinnati, home against the Bears, home against Indy, at Baltimore, at Indy, home against Cleveland, at Jacksonville, home against Detroit, and they finish off on the road at Green Bay, at Houston. I see them as a 9-7, 10-16, but this is what I will say. It all starts and ends, in my opinion, with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I thought that's what cost them the game against Kansas City, where they were pounding the ball with Derrick Henry, but then all of a sudden they wanted Ryan Tannehill to be the next Warren Moon. And that's not how it's going to go, dude. Yeah. Stick with what you know. Yeah. Don't get away from what's been killing Kansas City. Then when you get away from it, their defense gets enough confidence to stop you, and then Jesus, a.k.a. Patrick Mahomes, comes onto the field.
And all he has to do
is just sling it, and next thing you look up, you're like, damn it, how are we down by 10? We were just up by 14.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head, though, that they they may have overdone it with Derek to start.
Yeah.
And, because I think he had something like 20-something touches within the first 2.5 quarters.
Right.
And they're going to have to figure that out this year. They're going to have to figure out a way to make sure that they're not riding him into the ground. The problem is their offense is so centered around him, and when you let go of Mariota and you let Tannehill do his thing, you are basically admitting the fact that you needed Derrick Henry to win. So I think 9 wins is honestly generous. I think, I see this team taking a step back. I like Mike Vrabel. I like him overall as a coach. I just don't think that there's a lot of talent you're going to have to overcome on the defensive side. They did it for the most part last year, but the front seven is going to be in tough positions if they can't stop the run. And teams are just going to run all over them, especially when you got Indianapolis in your division, who's going to probably try and run the ball a lot, and especially get people out of the backfield involved now that they have Phillip Rivers there. You've got Houston, who's going to sling the ball around, and even Jacksonville's going to want to run the ball on you. So, that's 6 games right there where you're going to have to, be really, really on top of it. And I just don't see it. I think 6 to 7 wins is probably more in the range for me. I don't think this division is going to be that great this year, to be quite honest.
That's what Cowher has said. He's like, you got 3 middle-of-the-road teams, and then you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are going to suck.
Yeah, and even Indianapolis. I mean, honestly, I'm more excited about Indianapolis than I think a lot of people are, because I think I saw the
same boat.
Yeah, I saw the team last year, and I was thinking, man, if you put Phillip Rivers on that team last year, that's a different team, because Jacoby Brissett, I understand there was, a lot of last-second stuff with him and Andrew Luck, but that was a really tough situation for him to jump in.
Most definitely. And speaking of which, let's go to the Colts. Phillip Rivers, as you mentioned, is going to be the starting quarterback.
They still got Brissett, right?
And they still got Brissett on there. Okay. And laying in the wings to learn the position, they drafted Jacob Eason in the 4th or 5th round.
Oh, okay.
So he's still there.
Because Rivers, I mean, he's got a year, maybe 2,
if you're lucky.
Maybe 2. Okay.
Then you got Marlon Mack with Jonathan Taylor, who they drafted again in the 2nd round last year.
I like that pick too.
Then you have T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., another 2nd-round pick, and Paris Campbell as the wide receivers. Not bad. Jack Doyle becomes the starting tight end now that Eric Ebron moved on to Pittsburgh. Yeah. Trey Burton is on that team. He's back.
Really? Trey Burton. Okay. Mr. Anxiety.
Doyle.
All right.
Then my favorite part of this team right here is the offensive line. Anthony Castanazzo, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Mark Lozinski, and Braden Smith is from left to right. I think this might be one of the best, most exciting young athletic offensive line, if not in the AFC in the entire NFL.
That left side,
I love Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, me too. And Nelson with Costanzo and Kelly, they're gonna run the ball 50 to 60 times to that left side.
That's almost the equivalent of when the Vikings used to have Bryant McKinney.
Who was their inside guy? Because they used to beat us up when they had
with Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, they used to beat us up. Because McKinney was completely unmovable on the left side. And then they had a tremendous. It was Max Burke. It was after Burke. They had another Pro Bowl center, and they had an amazing left guard.
I think the Pro Bowl center was one of the. Oh my goodness! Yeah, look that up. But I remember when they had that, because I remember when Minnesota used to have. He went to go play for the Bucks too when they won the Super Bowl. There was one year where Minnesota had just about the most powerful left side offensive line that you could think of.
Yeah, so Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson. That's what I was thinking of.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yep. Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson. It was one of the Mac boys was the center too.
There was let me look up the roster. Yeah, so it was Ryan Cook, Artis Hicks. Oh, this is actually the next year. Yeah, it was actually, I think it was So it was Bryant McKinney, Steve Hutchinson, John Sullivan is who the center was, and he was a perennial Pro Bowler every single year. And then they had Philip Lodeholt in the right tackle, and they didn't even need the right side because they would just the blind side was protected, and they would just run stretches to the left side. And AP, all he had to do was just choose the lane because Bryant McKinney was so big that he cleared 2 or 3 guys himself.
And then you threw Steve
Hutchinson, who could pull with anybody. And again, that's similar to what we're seeing with Indianapolis because Quentin Nelson is so athletic that he can get down the field like a linebacker and get to the second or third level while your running back is still in the backfield. It's pretty crazy, and that's why I'm saying Indianapolis. Frank Reich is going to do it his way, right? So especially when it comes to the offensive line, they're going to run the ball a lot. Philip Rivers is going to be slinging a lot of Austin Eckler-like stuff to Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack, and you're going to see T.Y. going down the field. The problem is, does Rivers have the arm?
Yep.
That's the real issue with them because Paris Campbell he's a slot-ish guy. Pittman is another guy that's probably going to have to play an extra wide receiver. And then when you've got T.Y. Hilton, his main weapon is just streaking down the field.
Right.
How well is Philip Rivers going to get it to them? But they're going to run the ball a lot, and they're going to look good.
I agree 100%. Then they run the 4-3. So Justin Houston, the reason why I keep saying second round is because they traded their first-round pick for DeForest Buckner.
Yeah. Which was an amazing pick for them. Yeah.
Huge pick for him.
Yeah.
And Alquandin Muhammad is the right defensive end. Then you got Darius Leonard, Anthony Walker, and Bobby Oriki.
Yeah. That linebacker core is surprisingly good. I mean, Darius Leonard he broke out, but those other 2 guys, when Darius Leonard was out last year, because I had him in fantasy, they were racking up tackles. So they got guys who could fly around.
And then you got Rock Yassin, Kari Willis, Malik Hooker, and Kenny Moore II is in the second.
That's where they're going to struggle.
I like Rock Yassin, though.
I do, too. He's a young kid. He's going to be fine, but they don't have a true number 1 cornerback. And it's going to be really tough to beat teams like Kansas City, teams like Baltimore.
Yep.
That's going to be really tough for them, but they're going to be okay in the division, I think.
Let's see. Their schedule looks like this: at Jacksonville, home against Minnesota, home against the Jets, at the Bears, at Cleveland, home against Cincinnati. And then they have the bye week at week 7, at Detroit, home against Baltimore, at Tennessee, home against Green Bay, home against Tennessee, at Houston, at Las Vegas, home against Houston, at Pittsburgh, and they finish off at home against Jacksonville. Wow. This team is in 12-4.
Yeah. I was going to say I think 10 wins is definitely attainable for them, especially in this division. If they can win 5 out of the 6 in the division, they're probably looking at 10 or 11 wins pretty easily. The problem is right now there's a couple teams in there that – and you know how it is when you're picking NFL this early in the season. There's always teams where you're in your head, you're like, that's going to be a tough game. And then, you look back on it during the season, and you're like, this is not going to be a tough game at all for them. And, they have got a couple of examples. Honestly, I hate to say it, but the Bears are going to be a team where a lot of people are thinking we're going to be really, really a tough opponent. And it's like, if we don't have a quarterback, if we don't have an offensive line that can protect, that's going to be easy games for us. Right. Same thing when you look at, teams like Cincinnati and teams like Cleveland and teams like Pittsburgh. You're not sure what they're going to look like quite yet this year. And I know Cincinnati's probably going to be bad, but Pittsburgh, Cleveland, some of these other teams, I think 11 wins would be really nice for them. They need to get that 11 or 12 wins so that they could get a top seed and try and avoid Kansas City, Baltimore, because those are going to be the 2 teams in the AFC this year, I think.
And there you have it. It's the AFC. Woo. Did you want to quickly maybe go over, because I know you weren't here last week when I did the West, but does anything stick out for you in the AFC West?
No, so honestly, I mean, when it comes to the West, I listen in some, but I think you hit it on the head, which was that it was going to be Kansas City that has a lot of they've got a head start in this whole thing, right? It's pretty obvious. I think the Chargers are going to be interesting. I watched the Hard Knocks for both LA teams. The Chargers are going to be an interesting team because they don't quite have a quarterback yet. Like
Right.
I like where they're at, but they don't. I mean, I don't think Tyrod Taylor is the answer, and I also don't think Justin Herbert's going to be able to step in from day one and be that guy.
I'm with you on that.
So honestly, I think Kansas City runs away with that one. I think Vegas might have a shot this year. The problem with Vegas is that it's all on Derek Carr,
Yep.
right? They got him the weapons now. Henry Ruggs is going to be amazing for them. The problem is they need to get the ball in those guys' hands. So, I think it's going to be Kansas City's to kind of run away with, and you'll start to see that even like Denver's going to be much improved this year, but even Denver, they're going to have to really pound the rock. I mean, we know what Vic Fangio likes to do on defense, but they sign Melvin Gordon,
yep.
and they already have Phillip Lindsay, and you're kind of looking at this as like how much running can you do in this league. So I think Kansas City's probably away with it, but we might see one or two wild card teams in that division there because the Chargers can be that good, the Vegas Raiders can be that good. They just need to fix the defense over there, and then also you never know what's going to happen with Denver because they have that type of talent, and Vic Fangio, don't ever sleep on a defense with Vic Fangio. So, but
Most def. Well, when we come back next week, we can finally get into the coup de grace of the NFL. The NFC East is where we'll start off next week. We'll start in the East and work our way down to the South, because you know that if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, the NFL preseason would have started as of this week. So,
and let's remember, dude, no preseason games this year. Yeah. And the first 2 weeks are going to look ugly as hell. I hope if you're playing fantasy this year, don't expect much out of your player the first 2 weeks. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm happy to have them back, but I'm worried about safety too, because it's like there's gonna be some season-ending injuries this year, and I'm hoping it's not the players that we love.
Yeah, and that's the thing that sucks. Like I thought Cowherd said it best, especially with a team like Miami, when you draft number 3 is your, or whatever it was, as your big time quarterback in Tua, you want him to start getting reps,
sure,
and getting strong from the hip injury.
Yeah.
And
no preseason to do that is tough.
You can't. So you're almost forced to have to start Ryan, and just hope that you have the consciousness of knowing when it's time to bring in Tua.
Yeah.
Is he ready? Can he work with these guys? Can he make moves like this and that, and not just throw them to the wolves, because you're kind of everyone's behind the 8 ball.
For sure.
It's going to be interesting with a lot of these teams that have new quarterbacks, like the Bears, like the Bucks, like, some of these teams that drafted Indianapolis, that they're just going to have to rely on practices.
Yeah.
And like you said, the first 2 weeks is going to be ugly, because that's going to be preseason for most people.
There's going to be a lot of 10-3 games in that first 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
From the new teams.
Yeah, for sure. But
also, I'm pretty sure Kansas City's not scoring 10 points.
But also,
on Thursday night.
I'm willing to go out on a limb and say this: even Kansas City is not untouchable when it comes to practice and flow. I mean, I know they didn't lose much, but the problem is, every year is football in general. Every year is a new year, right? So we have to give the opponent the minimum amount of respect. But when you're talking about Kansas City, there's been times last year where they didn't look great. I mean, let's remember the last 3 games of the season, they were down going into the 3rd and 4th quarters.
True.
So you have to look at this as a completely separate thing. Anybody can get it this year, so let's not. I would say if you're a team like New England, who has had that coaching staff around for so long, you're in a better position than you are a team that's been, a team or a bunch of players that's been around each other. But we'll see. We'll talk about that.
Most definitely. All right, guys, we'll be back next week, same time. Happy birthday to Rachel. She turns 21. And the reason why we were doing this so early is we're going to drink enough Jack Daniels to do some late night streaking in the quad.
Yep.
That's how you bring in 21.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Peace.
Deuce.